Starship Vigilant, a Star Trek Adventures campaign.
Hello everyone, welcome to Star Trek Adventures Session 3. I think we're recording. I'll always edit it out if we're not. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to do what we never bloody do, which is I'm going to get everyone to say who they are and who they're playing. So Mike, you will go first.
Oh, you would do, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right, I'm...
You don't have to use the full name, just tell us who you are.
No, he chose it. He's going to use
No.
Spit it out!
I am Lieutenant... this is Mike playing Lieutenant Kaz, Communications Con Officer for the USS Vigilant.
Kevin.
My name is David Osterhagen. I am a Vulcan. I am a lieutenant. The reason why I've got a full two names is because I was orphaned and brought up by human scientists in Sweden, and I don't like humans that well.
Kerrin, welcome. Kerrin's here, first time for Kerrin. Welcome.
Thanks
Nice
for
to have
having
you
me.
with us. Thank you very much for joining us.
I am playing today Sean's character of Miles Naismith. Is that correct?
Correct.
Lieutenant Commander. Hopefully, security on the USS Vigilant if we make it that far.
Oh, how right you are. I'm Steve, I'm the GM. Hello everyone. I don't know why I say that, because we're the only ones who are going to listen to this, but anyway, never know, one day we might make a best-selling podcast out of it, so who knows. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll start with a little recap. So you three are Starfleet officers who are travelling on a Dorman transport, currently heading from Starbase 123, heading for Narendra Station, at which point you are due to be joining your next assignment, which is the USS Vigilant. So Edorm is a currently neutral planet on the edge of the Shackleton Expanse, which is petitioning for Federation membership, and as such the Edorm Society is quite keen to court Federation favour, and as such you've been able to cadge a free ride on a freighter heading from Starbase 123 to Narendra. Whilst en route, you discovered that on board the freighter, which was called the Valente, I believe. The Valente.
Yep.
Kevin, you haven't seen this, I don't think, have you? So I even went to the trouble of making up little things.
No.
So you are on the Valente, and whilst en route, you have discovered that the medical officer, within a hidden compartment within the ship's medical bay, was hiding a stasis chamber within which was lying an Edorman councilman suffering from, and I can never remember the name of the disease. I'm going to go with Bendai syndrome for the want of something better to say, but it's some nasty disease which the Edorman medical technology isn't able to easily cure, and as such the Edorman councilman is being moved in secret to the starbase to receive treatment. The reason that he's being moved secretly, it turns out, is that there are two factions on Edorm, one of which is sympathetic to the Federation membership plea, and the other faction is less well inclined. Rumour has it that possibly the Orion Syndicate are involved with that faction, and as such it was feared that if this councilman was known to be either ill or not on Edorm, then the other faction would take advantage of his absence to try and cement their power base, and so for whatever reason it was decided to move him in secret. So you were brought along to assist when the councilman's stasis chamber started to malfunction. So David was able to render assistance and stabilise the pod and assist the medical officer when the ship appeared to come under attack. So Miles and Kaz went to the bridge and learned from the captain that the ship had come under attack from an Orion raider, looking something like that. And obviously the ship being an unarmed civilian merchantman, wasn't able to put up much of a fight, although Kaz managed to throw some sharp manoeuvres to throw them off a bit. Essentially, the Orion was able to disable the freighter and sent boarding parties over, at which point Kaz and Miles were fighting off what turned out to be a mixture of Orions and Klingons who boarded the ship. You managed to obtain firearms from the ship's captain. He basically had 2 really ropey old disruptor pistols, both of which then subsequently blew up, essentially. And despite that, you managed to fight off some of the raiders, and you were making your way back through the ship. So the captain had essentially appeared to have disappeared, and as far as you could tell, it was hard to tell what was going on with the Eorman crew. The ship only had a crew of 12, so there was only a few of them around, and you hadn't really come across any of them. You assume they're probably trying to abandon ship or surrender to the pirates or whatever, but you hadn't really come across them. So whilst you're on your way back to the medical bay to hook up with David, you were almost ambushed by 2 raiders, but then David appeared from the sick bay with a stunner that had been provided by the medical officer, took out the 2 raiders, but then subsequently was transported away along with the stasis pod. And meanwhile, then within a minute or so, the ship then began to come under intensified fire from the raider. So as I recall, that's pretty much where we left it. Does that seem right to everyone?
Seems about right, yeah.
Yeah, I remember the previous session I was trying to help the guy in the stasis tube.
Yeah, so exactly. So
you basically stayed in the med lab or whatever it was.
Yes, conveniently that week you were
conveniently
in the
sort of
medical
like
bay.
trying to keep the guy's stasis pod alive.
Apart
Apart from your one glorious moment where you stuck. Oh, hello, bang! Down there goes and bang.
So do Kaz and Miles know that the stasis pod went?
Yes.
Because we heard that David was being transported over the comm.
Correct.
And I
that's a good point. So I may have jumped ahead a little bit there. So, however, as far as I'm concerned, you kind of have gone to you were outside the medical bay when you were ambushed. He came out. He zapped them. Mm-hmm. As you say, over the comm, he then disappeared. So I'm going to assume you're going to investigate the sick bay. So you can take it from me with my little cock up there that yes, the stasis pod is also beamed away. Yeah. You basically investigate the medical bay, and the medical officer is nowhere to be seen, and the pod has gone. The wall, the false wall covering is up. If you remember, there was a.
But it was up. Oh no! Brought it down.
I think David had brought it down.
Yeah.
However, when you enter the sick bay, which again I say sick bay is a bit of a glamorous term. It's essentially a cupboard with a medical, like a diagnostic bed, cabinet with a few medical bits.
Burn all the momentum to get the roll to. Save the guy, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think we ended on a complication on the first session, but they don't really carry over. So you essentially, I'm going to assume you'd use whatever you generated to just stabilise it.
Just a question: when we looked at the pod, when we first shown the pod, was it actually physically connected to the power supply? Was it a cable? Now, can I see the cable? And has it been cut, or has it been?
It hasn't been. Well,
you know what I'm saying is, if it's been beamed out and the cable's just gone chink, ceased to exist, or has it been disconnected?
It appears to have been disconnected. So, in other words,
so that means
if you imagine it's a plug, it's a kettle lead, but
what I'm saying is that kettle lead doesn't end in a cut wire.
Good point.
But there was an issue with the stasis cube.
All you can infer is that the connection has been removed, in that it's there, it's intact, but it's lying on the floor, so it's probably been removed. Whether that's been removed by the medical guy before, or whether Kevin or David has removed it, you don't know.
Did you?
Well, you don't know because he's on another ship at the moment, so no asking him. So essentially,
are these different life forms? Any chance I could get blood samples?
Sorry, that was the raiders essentially. So you discovered that one of the raiders was, in fact, a couple of them were Klingons. So as I recall, you'd actually armed yourselves with Klingon disruptor pistols from fallen opponents.
After the captain's guns went foot.
Does it seem suspicious that we haven't seen any of the Eormans? Especially the medical officer, who we would expect to be in the medical bay.
That's a very good point. Now, if you recall from last week's session, you heard shooting, well, you heard the sound of weapons discharge from the cargo bay. So just to, if I just remind us what...
Okay,
so essentially the Valenti's got 4 decks. So the top deck was essentially had the bridge at the front. You've got the living quarters for the crew. Essentially a long corridor with rooms off it. Captain's quarters up here. Then the second level down, I think we had the transporter room, medical bay, so forth.
Corridor, wasn't it?
Again, essentially a long corridor. Third level was engineering at the back, but again, long corridor with support facilities off it. And then the 2 bottom decks essentially are the cargo bay. So this is essentially a big old cargo bay, 2 levels high, no accommodation, but that was essentially where you were hearing shooting coming from the main stairwell, because there's essentially a ladder way going down through the middle of the ship, and you could hear weapons being fired. However, the ship only had a crew of 12. So as far as you know, the helmsman was still on the bridge because you left him on the bridge, correct? The captain, you'd been with the captain, but he'd sort of disappeared after he gave you the weapons and kind of then
guns and ran off, didn't he?
You haven't seen the medical guy, and you haven't seen any adornment bodies through the corridors. But bearing in mind, at the moment you're essentially on level 2.
Didn't all the non-essential crew go down to the cargo bay to fight off the boarders?
I don't remember whether that was announced, but you kind of may have assumed that. But you haven't seen any other adornments other than the helmsman who's on the bridge. I mean, you have met them before, because when you spent 2 or 3 days on the ship before this happened, and obviously you'd seen them around, and you'd eaten with them. There's like a communal mess hall, so you know that there are people
I picked up
working.
DNA samples, I believe.
Say again?
I picked up DNA samples from the captain.
I don't even want to know where that's going, but so at the moment, so is it suspicious? Again, the ship's it's not massive, but it's big enough that you may not see people. Other than so there's 2 or 3 people probably in engineering. There'd be cargo handlers. I don't know what they'll be doing, but they'll probably be doing maintenance jobs. The bridge crew, I think one of them was actually killed on the bridge. Was that right? Do I remember that rightly? One of the panels exploded, so I think one of them may have been. But again, yes, you may think it's slightly odd that you haven't seen at least a body or an adornment running away from the boarders, perhaps. So all you've seen so far are Orion/Klingons.
Does the Valenti have escape pods? Or?
It certainly does have escape pods.
Does it still have escape pods?
You don't know. You'd have to go and find out. If you remember, I think we established that it didn't have shuttles. So it had there's a transporter room, which you. But
the thing is, if the crew were in with the raiders, then they probably wouldn't have used the escape pods anyway. They probably would have just beamed out with the raiders.
Again, at the moment, you're in the corridor, or you've gone to the sick bay. The room is empty. The alarm is there's still like a muted alarm going off throughout the ship, and you can hear the impacts. There was a big impact a minute or so ago when Kevin first went, and the ship started to groan. There hasn't been another one, but it didn't sound good. There was a sort of the biggest impact you'd heard.
I'm going to head up.
Sounded like weapons fire.
Head up to the bridge.
Oh yeah, I'm going to follow Kaz.
Okay, so. Right, so in your case, we're going to have to split this over a little bit. So just bear with me a second. Yeah. So you appear. So okay, so let's just we'll just cover something with you quickly. So, you were in the medical bay, tending to your patient. The medical officer had gone or left for momentarily, as far as you're aware. So you were on your own, and you were monitoring the situation over the communicators with your colleagues who'd kept in touch with you, and you had essentially come out at the opportune moment to dispatch the 2 raiders in the corridor. You'd been given a stun weapon by the medical officer before he'd wandered off.
Yep.
I say wandered off, he'd gone off to do something, but he'd left you, he'd given you a stunner, which is a standard non-lethal hand weapon. You've seen its type many times before.
It's a taser.
It's a phaser without the kill setting, basically.
It's a phaser without the T.
It's a phaser without the T. And you managed to drop the 2 because they didn't see you coming, because they weren't expecting to be there. And then you felt the familiar tingle of a transporter, and you then appear. So you realise you're being transported. And you appear in a unfamiliar, what seems to be a transporter room, essentially, You register Orions, because Orions are obviously very distinctive, and then there's a blue flash, and then you know nothing else. So at the moment you are, to put it, you're unconscious. Conveniently, meaning I haven't got to split the group for a few minutes. Okay.
Okay, on the way to the bridge, Miles is going to say to Kaz that I believe our interests are no longer on this ship. We need to get over to the raider. Are we in agreement?
Yeah, it's not a bad idea actually. Can we get on it? Wait, do we actually? Yeah, do we know where the transporter room is?
You do, because you walked past it.
Then we'll go back.
So the transporter room is on deck 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were on deck 2. You're on deck 2 or deck 3?
I think it was deck 2.
Okay, so
deck 3 was the cargo deck,
okay.
and we were going down.
Okay, so let's say it's on the same deck. So because again, the deck 2 is essentially the. Actually, now I stand corrected. Deck 2 was the accommodation level for the crew. Deck 3 is the support level. So deck 3 is where the sick bay is, and also so you're on deck 3, but it's on the same level.
Right. Okay.
So essentially, again, you can see from the superstructure. So essentially, it's about sort of towards the front.
So it is a lot closer than the bridge.
Yeah, the bridge is 2 levels up. Again, there's one central sort of staircase that goes down the middle of the ship, but essentially you'd have to climb up. And as you are making your way, so this corridor is, as I think we established, it's a fairly featureless industrial type, aliens type corridor, kind of gridded, grated floor, very bare technology.
Question: while we're running around, is there any of the unconscious bodies of the raiders still around?
Okay, so the 2 raiders were at the. There was 2 raiders outside the sick bay, which Kevin has conveniently stunned.
Okay, what were they wearing?
So they're wearing. So there's. I seem to remember there was 1 Orion and 1 Klingon, if I remember correctly. So they're wearing essentially civilian clothing. So the Klingon is. So the raider, literally.
They're not wearing
not a full helmet. And
no. I'm just wondering whether they were wearing sort of like long coats or anything like that.
Something we could discuss.
Because mind you, actually, we're not in Starfleet uniform.
We're not, no.
You're not. However, so the Klingon was wearing what you would call it. I guess you'd call it like a duster. They seem to have They seem to like because it's good for concealing weapons. So he's wearing a heavy coat essentially.
Yeah.
The Orion is something like that. So he's wearing like essentially it's jeans and a t-shirt and a jacket with a holster.
I'm going to put
various kit pouches and that kind of
take the coat off him. Does it fit?
It's quite big on you because Klingons are pretty hefty. So you can put it on, but it's quite heavy.
It might fit in better.
I'm not quite sure.
Because all I'm saying is if we sort of like get a coat or something that's familiar to the raiders, then it might give us the thing. They might turn.
Because if you remember, you weren't quite sure how many crew were on the raider ship because Miles has spent time undercover with the Orions and there's some familiarity, and he made the point that those ships can vary immensely between, so one Orion raider to the next can vary. So it could have a crew of 5, it could have a crew of 4. You just don't know, depending on how it's been set up. So okay, so
for someone whose technical knowledge isn't totally there, if we tried to transport and their shields are up, what would happen?
Yeah, well, that was the next question. We
won't. Would we just be prevented?
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming GM would say no, you can't beam over.
Well, essentially, what would happen? No, but it's a good question because. So what you're saying is, would your molecules get spilled?
Yeah,
sure.
You make it as far as the shield,
and you just go. No, I think from what we know, because
you probably wouldn't be able to get a lock.
Yeah, essentially, essentially you wouldn't get a transporter lock. So you're trying to target a location and. Without the transport lock, you couldn't get it, so you wouldn't be hurt. You just wouldn't go anywhere. Okay, so let's go back to what you were doing. So you've pulled the coat off the Klingon. So this coat, as I say, because Klingons are generally quite big, and I get the impression that Caitians are relatively slight. I mean, you're not necessarily
slim and light,
slight, right?
Yeah.
So Miles can probably that coat probably would fit you better. I mean, it's still quite roomy, but it feels you can sort of walk with it. And do you want?
I was going to say, can I spend a momentum to give them an idea?
No, because you're unconscious.
Okay.
I'll get to you in a sec.
Yeah.
Okay, so
is it a sit on shoulders sort of affair with the big coat?
do you want so do you want to search the?
I'll just have a very quick look because we can't spend too long. Otherwise, that bloody ship will be out of range.
Yeah, okay.
So just have a very quick look to see whether is there anything any of the other raiders.
Anything to make you look
Why
more
don't-
Have they got a
O'Reilly.
Why don't we have a little dice roll just for a bit of fun? Because you know.
Has any of them got a
So,
fedora? Sorry, it's not that
Why
raiders.
don't you make a? I'm going to go with an insight and security. So for Kaz, that'll be target is an 11.
And
Difficulty is going to be only 1, I think. I'll explain what you're looking for in a minute. So this is essentially making a notice roll. But you're searching through his.
I don't mean I've got anything else that can.
You haven't really got any focuses that would be appropriate. So
No.
that's a straight roll. And because he's basically unconscious, he's not resisting. So the
11.
difficulty's quite easy.
Shall we say?
So we said it's
Made
11.
1 on. Dead on.
Okay, that's fine. Now, would you like to give me some threats to give me more, or are you happy with one success? Yes.
I'm happy with 1 success. I'm not feeding. I'm not feeding the troll.
Worth a try. Fine. You spend a moment, and again, as you rightly say, you don't want to spend too long. You root through his gear, and you find essentially a communicator. It's a very small. I mean, you recognise it as a communicator. It's not the same as a Starfleet one, but it's a it's a comlink. Essentially, it's a comlink. So
Yeah.
that's probably worth hanging on
Comlock.
to. If you similarly, because you're wearing the coat. I mean, you probably, if you look long enough, you probably find about 15 weapons. There's probably daggers and all sorts of shit in there. That's just what they do.
Found the wallet with his wife and kids in it.
But you also, if you put your hand, you root through the pockets. There's also a comlink, so they've obviously got their own comlinks. So that might be useful. I'll give you that one. So you take, presumably, you're going to take that. You've obviously already picked up the weapons from the previous.
Yeah.
So these guys also have disruptor pistols, effectively.
So the guys.
Because you remember you dropped the other 2 on the other deck, and you've got
the
their
ones
weapons.
that blew up.
Yeah. So you've got their weapons, but these guys have obviously got weapons as well.
Yeah, take those.
They're the same weapons. They're disruptor pistols. Nothing unusual.
They wouldn't have an ammunition. No, they don't. They just charge, don't
I think
they?
essentially
they
Star
don't
Trek weapons kind of work until they don't. I don't think they carry their power packs. Yeah, they don't have power packs in that sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
So you pocket a few bits, but Miles.
As I say, the 2 weapons. I'll give you 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. One.
We've probably got about 15 in your
Well, that's it. I assume there's going to be a lot of hand-to-hand combat weapons.
Yeah,
like knives and stuff.
certainly. I mean, if you want to be careful putting your hands in your pockets because oh shit, I just cut myself. There's no doubt there's going to be a mechleth in there, like a knife.
You know what it'd be like the old Spiv when it goes, I want some weapons. What do you want?
Yeah, there's probably going to be knuckle dusters. I mean, literally. I mean, you know what Klingons are like. They've got. It's well known that they've got Worf had 15 weapons on his person in his Starfleet uniform. So you've probably got a good selection of certainly hand-to-hand bits and bobs.
Okay.
There's God knows what. There's nothing drastically exciting. There's no grenades. There's none of that. But there is definitely, as you say, the odd knife, the odd pocket photon torpedo.
Packs of cigarettes.
You've got a Klingon targ.
Yeah, you've got the cigarettes outside, the nylons on
sunglasses.
that side.
Nylons.
And a slight aside, Fallon's just resigned.
What's that?
Fallon has just resigned.
Fallon,
Defence Secretary.
Oh, was he?
Cool. Yeah. He's just resigned.
Fell off the fence, did he?
Yeah.
Bloody hell. Okay, so right, you've got those bits. You carry on. So you're moving off to the
Transporter room.
Yeah, you're moving off to the transporter room. Right, back on the other ship.
I'm having a dream in which I'm.
You're having a dream. Oi,
No, I'm
Kevin, you're having a dream about smothering, aren't you?
No, I'm not gonna. No, I'm not gonna.
So you you wake up now. They've obviously only just literally stunned you very lightly because you've only probably been. I mean, again, you've been knocked out for about 5 minutes at most. But do people in Star Trek wear watches? I don't really know. Let's assume Vulcans have got an internal time clock, so you kind of are pretty good at judging time. So you reckon you've been out for about 5 minutes, and you've basically been chucked in essentially in a cell. Although it's a tool cupboard in this cargo bay. So as you examine you're looking around at your surroundings, and you're in a cargo bay. There's boxes, there's stuff stacked up. You notice to the other side of the cargo bay, there's a small group of people who appear to be having an argument, or there's raised voices. Now, obviously, you're You've just obviously been chucked in here to keep you out of the way, keep while they decide what to do with you, I guess. And you recognise the captain of the Valente, and he is surrounded by several Orions and what look to be Klingons and possibly Nausicaans. You can't really tell at this distance, but you definitely recognise the Orions. They're very easy to spot, obviously, because they're bright green, so they're pretty clear. Klingons also pretty distinctive looking, and these are like these Klingons, not the Discovery Klingons. We're not going to go there. And so you can, given your Vulcan hearing is better than the average humanoid, you can hear them having an argument, and essentially, without wishing to do the voices too much, the Orion is berating the Adorman captain. So the Adorman doesn't appear to be a prisoner from your vantage point. He is, although he's quite clearly intimidated by these guys, he doesn't appear to be handcuffed or to be under guard. And they're essentially, why did you bring Starfleet into the deal? Why did you have to bring Starfleet into the deal? He says, you were just supposed to take the pod. You were just supposed to take the pod. I was just making a little money on the side. And essentially, this guy's being chewed out by whether he's the captain of the Orion ship, you don't know. He appears to be in charge. But again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that this is probably being set up.
I'm going to stand up, I'm going to clap as loud as I can and go, silence! My patient needs me. Where is he? Now!
So 10 pairs of eyes kind of whip round to look at you at the other side, because you're making it.
My patient will die without me. Quickly, you man, you, take me to him.
So this very large Orion strides across to you, and he essentially slams his hand on the door and says, shut up!
My patient will die without me.
Before I throw you out of the nearest airlock.
But my patient will die without me.
I don't give a stuff about your patient. Be quiet.
No.
Okay, he reaches for a weapon. He's wearing a disruptor pistol and he's not looking very happy with you. But the captain says, leave him for now. We've got other things to attend to. Get back to the bridge.
But Captain, you haven't told me about the infectious disease he has that he's going to bring on the ship and kill everyone.
The captain just ignores you.
You will all die if I don't get my hands on the patient.
It's quite good. Okay, I'll tell you what, let's see if you can maybe see if you can... Okay.
I have focus.
What do we think? I reckon probably...
What's the most common infectious disease that would affect every race on the ship?
Well, I probably should... I've got it written down. Let me just make I'm sure I've actually got the disease written down here somewhere. You'd think I would have, wouldn't you?
Better one.
So I came up with a similar tactic, and I was going to try to hail the ship. The one problem I ran into is, do transporters not screen for infectious diseases?
They do. Starfleet transporters certainly do.
Okay.
Now,
probably the cheaper models wouldn't.
Right.
Okay. So the disease, for those listening, is Metabelis syndrome.
Okay,
I knew I'd written something
that
down.
That is not what I'm going to say he has. I am going to say
he's got spiders.
No.
I have an idea.
What's the name? It's not Sonar. What's the name of the planet that was there was a disease on the planet that wiped out everyone?
I probably should know that, but...
I'm going to say...
to be honest, you can just make something up. I mean,
this is fine.
I get the feeling none of these are medical professionals. You're probably okay. But I think you can. I think you can certainly have a go to. Let's turn it into a mechanical thing to try and. Now somewhere here. Oh, there we go.
Without my help, the Calandan virus will infect this ship within
That sounds very convincing.
5 hours.
I like it. Okay, right, so why don't you make a... I reckon it's got to be... well, I would say probably... I don't know, maybe control? What do you think? What's your best... Convince me of your best option, because the thing with this system
using
is...
a combination of infectious disease and virology to bump up my...
So they're your focuses. Well, focuses, if you remember, you'll get more successes if you roll below the... So it's the discipline is important. So the discipline's probably going to be science or medicine, probably whichever your highest is.
Both four. So control
and then I would say what's better out of control or
I'd say daring, because it's
daring.
a bluff.
Yeah, it's a bluff. Yeah, I'll go with that. Daring or control.
14.
Fine. So roll some dice. Now, do you want? Okay, hit. Now, do you want to give me any threat to?
I will give you 3 threat to get 3 momentum.
Okay, that's how it works, I believe. So, all right, let's have a little look.
I'm going to go for gold with it.
Now, again, I have no problem with.
5 dice.
So on your little, have you got your table there? Just double check that.
Doesn't mention threat.
Bear with me a second. So, if you want to make things improving the odds, spend create opportunity allows characters to buy additional dice. A single point of momentum adds 1 bonus d20. The create opportunity spend can be paid for by adding to threat instead of spending momentum. So basically, yes, you can. Each point of threat will give you 1 bonus d20. So 1 point of threat gives you 1 bonus d20.
Yep.
A second dice costs you 2 momentum. So that'll be 3 in total. And then the third extra dice, if you want it, will cost you another 3. So that'll be 3, 4, 5, 6 points. I think that's how it works. I think it's accumulative. So you can certainly buy...
Go with 2 then.
So right, I'm going to take... So 2, you're going to go with 2...
2 momentum. So it gives you... So 2... So it gives you
2 dice would be 3 momentum.
Yeah, so I'm going to take 3 threat in this case.
Yep.
Great, okay. And then make a dice roll for that.
1, 2, 3... 3 under.
So 3 successes.
And 1 is under the focus.
And 1's under your... So that gives you 2 successes immediately.
Yep, 5.
3, 4, 5. Right, so... the difficulty for that was going to be a 3, which I forgot to mention, but it's a 3. So you get 2 points of momentum, which I will give you back. So that 2 points of momentum.
Which you could use now.
You could use now if you want.
Boost the result, right?
Yeah, you can do that. So you can use it to create advantage, to create opportunity. So to create advantage can...
I've got 5 success, so I might use that.
You can certainly bank it. Yeah, you can bank it.
I need to,
Okay, so... the captain, the Orion, we're going to call him the captain. So the Orion going to goes, say that again. He comes lurching over to you.
This man is carrying the Caladar. Calandian.
Calandon. Yeah, there we go.
Without my help, the entire ship is dead.
I've never heard of this. What is it?
You've never heard of Calandon?
You. And he calls over to the Idorman here. Calls this guy over, who, just to remind you, looks a bit like that. They all look very much like that. Calls him over. He said, What? So what is this Caladon virus? You told me it had Modiphius syndrome. Modiphius syndrome is completely different. Modiphius syndrome is not contagious to others.
No, he has that.
Are you insane?
But he's carrying the Calandon virus. The Calandon virus has wiped out an entire planet. So if you do not let me out within the next 10 minutes, this man is going to infect everyone on the ship and wipe you out.
Wait, he's in stasis. He can't infect us. He's in stasis. Ha! You repaired the stasis pod. You see? He's fine.
The stasis pod, before we were attacked, was leaking.
Is this true? He looks to the captain.
What does the captain know? He was not around the stasis pod. I was around the stasis pod.
He looks very shifty.
I'm the chief medical officer of the USS Vigilant. Without my help, you're all dead. In 9 minutes.
Right. Meanwhile, back on the Valente. That's very good, Kevin. Back on the Okay, hang on a sec.
It's not secret. It's just, is that possible?
Can I detect
groups of other people of another ship?
Claim device. We're turning the ship around.
Okay, so you reach the transporter room.
Yeah.
So the transporter again. Bearing in mind the transporter room is only.
I'm changing thing. Has this thing got cargo transporters?
It will have on the cargo decks, but
I'm going to the cargo deck then.
You're going to the cargo deck.
Yeah, because I'm good.
Okay.
For this to work, I need the cargo.
So, Miles, are you going to stick with him? Or?
We're going to get to the transporters. I'm going to see you double back. And
we're
already here.
Yes, I need the cargo transporters.
Okay.
Now you do notice.
Explain on the way. We're running out of time.
You do notice that there's no more impacts. So, in other words, whether it's because he's kind of thrown a spanner in the works, or whether there's some other strategy in play, you don't know. But after that initial impact, now. again, you thinking about it, it's possible the impact was disabling the engines because again, if you remember when you were attacked initially, the ship took some superficial hits which were enough to convince the captain to. Well, of course, you don't know this, but as Kevin knows, it appeared that they were essentially warning shots designed to get you to get the freighter to heave to and to be boarded. The Vigilant doesn't have weapons. It doesn't have the ability to escape. That made perfect sense. It may very well be that they've disabled the engines. You don't know, but for whatever reason, the ship is not being pounded with disruptors, so that's a good thing. On the negative side, obviously, there's still alarms going off. The lighting is still dim, and it's as Miles has said, it's probably not a great idea to stick around here for too long.
Well, what I was thinking is if we get down,
I would be hauling ass if I were you.
Get down, legging it down to the cargo bay.
Right, you go back onto level. So you go down to So you go to level 3. Now to get to the cargo bay, you have to go to the stern.
Yeah.
So engineering is essentially here at the back end here, and then essentially the ladders down into the cargo bays and the freight elevators and
wherever the.
So essentially, you head for the back of the ship, and as you go along deck 3, which is where you were before, you spot that the two bodies of the two raiders have gone. So you don't know whether they've got up and walked off or whether they've been transported away. But they have
if we run into. Anyway, so
again, you head down to the back of the ship, so you're presumably kind of pegging it fairly along these corridors,
like a cat on a hot tin roof.
Hot deck, yeah. Well, I'm leaving you in the dust.
So
as you know, if you've ever tried to catch a cat,
you haven't seen anybody else.
No, you don't catch them; you grab them. That's what Tom said.
So you head back down to the back of the ship. So you get into the engineering area. Is right at the stern, but basically there's a big gangway down into the cargo decks, and so you essentially it's like a stair. Rather than a ladder, it's stairways down.
Okay.
And as you go into this cargo deck is pretty big. It's a big open space. It's two levels. But it's split into 2 decks. So there are big cargo elevators going between the 2 levels, which you saw when you were given the tour.
Yeah.
But from your perspective, you walk into a big space. There's containers, usual stuff. So you want to look for the cargo transporters.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so why don't you make let's see if we can speed things up a bit here for you, because again, this area is quite big, and you probably wouldn't have had much of a tour of this because it's cargo bay.
Yeah, it's basically. I would have thought it's fairly obvious that they're going to be.
But to bear in mind, as you say, time is you don't want to spend half an hour looking for these things. You want to get moving. So I want you to make a. Let's go with I reckon insight and engineering maybe.
That's 11.
Go with that. Have you got any focuses that would be appropriate? Miles, have you got anything? You can assist if you like.
I was thinking I would probably be assisting.
So what you can do is you can make the same roll. So if you make a success, and so if Miles succeeds, he can add a success to yours. So you only roll one dice basically.
Yep.
So I'm just trying to put it.
So what did we say it was? It was insight and engineering. So for you that would be 12. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would be on.
You go first, Mike. See if you make a roll.
So it's 11, 4 and 6.
That's 2 successes, and if you get another one,
no. My apologies. That's a 14. So that's
14. So it's 1 success, and okay, that's fine. Okay, it takes you 2 minutes. You figure out where the EPS conduits are.
Yeah.
Okay, it's got to be over here somewhere, and sure enough, there's a big transporter pad.
Okay.
It's not that difficult to find, but I just wanted to emphasise to you that this is a big space
with
lots of containers.
It's more of a console than anything else.
That's the command outpost virus.
Oh.
I'm not making it up, is it?
No, they did. Right, okay.
Okay, so you find the cargo transporter. Now, again, it's fairly... bearing in mind this is an Idorman ship, it's not a Federation ship. However, transporters are fairly standard technology. I don't think you'll have too much of a problem operating it. Given a minute or two to...
Can it detect life forms on the ship?
Okay, well, hang on a minute. So that's a different thing. You want to make sensors. So because this is a cargo transporter which is designed for point-to-point transport. It's not designed, so no.
Right,
This console can't scan for life forms. This is purely designed to send the contents of the pad to another location.
Right. Okay.
So you're going to have enough trouble getting it to beam you to the other ship without scanning for life forms.
No,
so,
I was going to bring them to us.
No, you're going to have to.
Worth a try.
It's going to not be that easy because again, this doesn't have the fine control. And again,
yeah,
these are unfamiliar controls. You know how to set a coordinate. You know how to detect a landing area, but it's not designed for fine control. It's designed for bulk movement.
Jump up, get over there then.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just beam over.
Okay, so right, so I'm going to just make it. You're going to have to make a roll because normally a transport you wouldn't have to bother, but because it's a doorman, let's see whether you can do it. So I reckon let's go with a control and engineering probably.
So that's 11 and 2, so that's 13.
It's 13. Do you want to assist?
How's your I assume you'll be working the controls.
Yeah, and you can just kind of.
Would I assist? I don't know that I would. I don't.
Security officer, you probably know a little bit about transporters. Or if you've got anything.
When I see you looking at the control trying to figure it out, I would.
You've got Starfleet protocol, so if
you lights
and composure wouldn't be a bad one either.
Okay. I'll listen.
Give it a go. See what we get. That's a 12.
So that's a success.
And that's another 14. This dice is.
That's one. So
I'm looking to get a 10, right?
Yeah.
7.
Cool. Yeah. 3 successes. Great. In fact, you're going to get a point of momentum because that was only so that go into the pool because that was only a difficulty 1 because you're not doing anything too clever. You're just going right. There's the target. Of course, bearing in mind that the Orion ship is also a freighter. The good news is it's got big open spaces, so you haven't got to aim for anything too finette. You've got to aim for anything too clever. You just go right.
Surely, I mean, again, just bullshitting here, trying to think, but surely if you had transporters beaming from ship to ship, so if I locked onto that ship with my cargo transporters, it would go. The other transporter pad would have a target lock.
True, so, but interestingly enough,
say, right, I'm beaming to you. Right, so, okay, beep, beep, beep.
Interestingly enough, they don't appear to have been stealing any cargo, at least not yet.
No, the only thing.
So you notice that again. Now that as you're in the cargo bay, and again, as I mentioned, this is essentially stereotypical space containers, etc. And however, you haven't noticed that it looks empty or that there's no obvious sign that they've been nicking cargo. And again, bearing in mind you don't know what Kevin knows, again that smells a little fishy because you would expect if these were pirates, obviously what they would be doing would be raiding the cargo. You also notice that you haven't again seen any of the crew, so there's no sign of dead Idormans or even Idormans running around going, well, what's going to happen? So that again may seem odd, but for now
we need to get off this boat.
And you dematerialise and you appear in space. No, you appear.
Right.
Yeah, see you next week.
Tough luck, Sean.
No, so you appear in, and you have a slight moment of concern because you're beaming into the unknown, but you materialise and you're in a large, dark space. However, you can feel deck underneath your feet. You've got oxygen to breathe. And after a moment, your eyes begin to. Your eyes actually probably don't have a problem because you forget your rotation.
Yeah,
so whereas Miles, you take a second to kind of go. It's a bit gloomy, but you immediately, Kaz, you can see that you're in an essentially a very similar space to the space you just left. In other words, it looks like another cargo bay. This one, however, seems again is stacked high with stuff, but it appears to have a wider variety of stuff lying around. So there's containers which seem to be from different species, so whereas the Adorman ones are all standardised containers, these all seem there's a hodgepodge of stuff, and and you're essentially hidden from view. Although you're in this large cargo space.
Can I hear anything?
Okay, you can hear sounds of people moving about. You can hear running around. You can't hear voices as such, but you can hear the kind of suggestion of people about. But obviously, bearing in mind this is quite a big area, you can just hear something that tells you that you're not alone in this space.
And at this point, you realise that if you'd have done a computer search of our ship, you would have looked at the energy signature of the stasis cube and used that as the lock to pull the stasis cube back.
If only we had a scientist.
Yeah, if
only our science officer had been beamed to the other ship.
If we only had the GM's permission for him to spend a point to get it.
No, he was unconscious. It doesn't work that way. So
that's the GM's fault. That's not my fault.
Yeah, I'll tell you that's my fault. Okay, so you've beamed over to the ship. So you're over on the. Oh, hello. Oh, there we go.
With Kaz's leadership, I assume we're going to be looking for a door out of this room.
Cat fat.
So,
shut up.
I wish I could give you a Benny for that, but I can't.
There you go. No.
It doesn't work that way.
No, that's punishment for that gag.
Right. So anyway, you have materialised on the ship now. Kevin, you're still in your. So the captain is. So you're still having this discussion with this guy. And he's kind of toing and froing between you and the Idorman. But he says,
quick man.
He gets one. He gets. Okay, so what he does is he gets one of his. He calls to one of his subordinates in, I presume, Orion. I don't know. I've never even heard of Orions. Presumably have a language of their own. He calls,
stole it like everything else.
He calls to one of his subordinates. You assume. Meanwhile, you notice that there's two Klingons who are just kind of standing with their arms folded off to one side, looking at you belligerently. But Klingons tend to look at everyone belligerently. But they're obviously a sight apart from this group. So they're just kind of watching what's going on, but they're not really taking any part in this. The Orion calls over one of his crew, and he says something to him. The guy goes off and pulls out he's got like a hand scanner or essentially what looks like a tricorder, and he goes over to the stasis pod, which is in the middle of this space, and he starts scanning. He's sort of waving this tricorder about, but he obviously doesn't really know what the hell he's doing. He's sort of
you lie,
and he calls something back to the guy, and is like, they're having a conversation about it, and he can detect nothing. The chamber seems to be functioning.
Of course.
How do I know you're not trying to make a fool out of me?
In 2068, when Kirk discovered the Caladar virus,
you've certainly got the talk. I'll give you that.
no records were taken. Nobody landed on the planet because obviously it's a terrible virus. So no, there are no official Starfleet records or any records of this virus, other than the
idiom, sir. Idiom.
The viruses that were taken from the Marquis ship that crash landed there 4 years ago. Don't you know nothing? Look, here's the thing, man. I need to check every member of this ship. If they have symptoms, you may have to put them out of the airlock.
Besides, you're missing one obvious thing here. Being a Vulcan, of course, Vulcans don't lie.
No.
Because he doesn't know that you're not your typical Vulcan.
No. But. So in the meantime, I'm palming one of my DNA samples because it has blood in it.
Okay.
I need to check every member of the ship if they've got symptoms.
I'll start with the captain. The Adorman is looking very nervous at this point.
Yeah.
And he whispers to the captain. He sort of comes over to the captain, and he obviously says something to him. The captain looks at you and says, "You are Vulcan, yes?"
Indeed.
You will give me your word that if I will release you from your containment under guard for you to check the container. Do you give me your word? Because I understand that Vulcans do not lie. But do not be under any illusion. If you make the slightest move outside of that task, I will have my men burn you to the ground. Do you understand?
Captain, my mission as a medical officer,
but you're not even a fucking medical officer,
is to protect
lies upon
is
lies
to protect
upon lies.
The innocent.
I hope your ears are growing points even more so than as we speak.
Is to protect the innocent and
not
save
lying.
lives.
He's just exaggerating.
Okay, well, I mean, to be fair, you've already convinced him. Okay.
Yeah.
You made with the successes you got, he's basically believes you, but obviously he's, on the other hand.
I flipped the lid. I've got the blood sample.
Okay.
Now, Captain, I have to check the cranium follicles of every member of the ship for blood. If there's blood,
they'll have
in
a
the
hard
cranium,
time with most Orions. I think they're mostly bald, aren't they? But okay,
if there was blood samples on the cranium, then you have the Caladan virus, and you have to go out the airlock. I need to check everyone. Otherwise, we are all dead, Captain. So I'm going to palm.
Very well, very well. You release him from the cage, but keep an eye on him. If he makes a move you don't like, you shoot him down. Do you understand me? Yes, Captain.
And which will be a better death than the Caladar virus. Now, Captain.
I thought you said it was the Caladan virus.
Caladan virus.
That one as well.
Captain, allow me to check you first.
Okay, so they release, and this is not really a cell. This is essentially it's a tool cupboard. They release you from this chamber, and one of the Orions has got a nasty looking disruptor pistol pointed at you. The two Klingons to the side look a bit more interested at this point because it looks like there might be a possibility someone's about to get killed, so they're kind of a bit more interested now. Yeah. So they kind of you can see that they're kind of shifting.
You first. I'm going to palm the blood in my hand as he bends forward and put my hand on his head and then step back. Oh my God, he's infected!
Okay.
Do you know what? There's a strong smell of corbamite around here.
Right, so back to you two.
Yes.
So you're in a relatively quiet corner of this deck.
Yeah.
Again, you wouldn't get away with this on a Starfleet vessel because if you transported into a Starfleet vessel, they'd be an intruder. But this is obviously not a Starfleet vessel, so you don't appear to have been detected. Again, no one's come running at you with guns or whatever, and you can hear. Although there's activity around in this immediate vicinity, you seem to be.
Yeah.
Unobserved. So what do you want to do? The pair of you can.
Well, I'm going to try and sneak forward. Where? Right. Okay. So
we
can
hear
hear voices.
Which direction we want to go?
Yeah, that's good.
Would Miles have any idea because
yes,
that's
because of his background?
Good shout. Yeah, well done. So yes, you can. You are familiar with this type of ship. Miles served as an undercover operative for a number of, I think it was even years. I haven't got a document to hand, but so he's certainly very, very familiar with this ship. So you know that you are essentially, this is the cargo bay, essentially the butt end of this thing.
Yep.
It's a multi-level cargo deck. Again, you know that you're in the cargo decks. You look as if you're probably on one of the lower cargo decks, given the fact that the lighting is lower. Essentially, it's I won't say the bilges isn't the right term, but on a Earth cargo ship, the bilge is right at the bottom of the keel. So you're essentially in the sort of lower cargo decks. So you know that you're not likely to be running into anybody unless they're actively searching the ship. You're not likely to come across anyone, at least not immediately.
Might be an idea too if we run into anybody, try and take them out.
So Kaz, what's our aim? Is it to find David?
We need to get we need to get them and then get up.
Do we need to get off, or do we need to commandeer?
It's not. If the crew is as big as it looks as it is, we're not going to be able to commandeer it, are we? There's just not enough of us around. It's what, 4? 3 or 4 possibly?
Hold my tricorder.
Yeah, but
I've got Mr. Tricorder.
So it's we need to get off it. Get him, get Kaz and get it, or get David and get out. David and the
Miles does know that this ship is likely to have shuttles at least.
Yeah, okay.
Again, so whereas you may not be able to commandeer the whole thing, but certainly it will have small craft of some sort. Because again, they have. Some of these ships will carry fighters. Some of them will carry shuttles. Some will carry cargo landers. Again, you don't know the specific vessel.
Is Miles going to have a relative idea of where things are going to be located?
Yep, certainly, because even though these ships are will be modified by their individual captains and crews, the infrastructure, the space frame. You know that this is the cargo deck.
So I think
this is the command deck. This is the living quarters. This is the engineering section.
And boarding party training would have been in various ships.
You also know that the shuttle bay, it will be at the aft end of this section. So you're in this section here down the bottom somewhere.
Yep.
The shuttle bays will be at the back to the top of the cargo deck. So there's essentially they have a hangar bay at the top. That's where any auxiliary craft will be docked.
Okay.
And there's a good chance that will be again less well patrolled than the command spaces. But
so, Kaz, I think we need to do some quiet reconnaissance to try and find where he is. I'm thinking, are they going to be like Jeffrey's tubes and stuff?
Hang on a minute.
Absolutely. Every ship in Star Trek universe has got a Jeffrey's tube.
So that's going to be my, rather than run around corridors, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Excellent idea, and I completely 100%.
Because you do realise we've got comm badges on, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Which he should be wearing.
And also they're encrypted, so I mean.
Yeah, but the thing is, if
we
don't know what he's doing.
No.
Causing mayhem, probably, but we don't know what he's doing.
If we know him well enough.
But no, it was established last time that you do have your Starfleet comm badges.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if it's probably not be a good idea to bleep him. Mm-hmm. Because if we bleep him,
you don't know what situation he's in.
We've made it a
exactly.
We're
here. We're ready to attack.
Who are you talking to?
Where's the cargo bay? Just the two of us.
Couldn't find any weapons.
Yeah, we're here. We're here with the 400 security.
Yeah, we bought the army.
Miles can easily get you into the Jeffrey's tubes.
Okay.
Again,
so he does.
All of these ships will be riddled with them. I mean, basically, there's so you basically go to a wall, and there's a typical stereotypical grate that you just pull the thing off, and there's essentially it's a crawl space, but it's not. It's a typical Jeffrey's tube. You can, on your sort of hands and knees, you can crawl around, and that will go. Essentially, the whole ship will be full of them. All of the ships of this era have these things.
So, are we thinking of taking different directions for haste, or are we thinking? The problem with that is when one of us finds somewhere, the other one's got to make their way back to that point anyway. So,
but the thing is, we've got communicators, encrypted communicators.
And again, Orions won't be able. Again, they don't know at this point that
they don't know we're here.
Mm-hmm. B, they wouldn't be able to hack into them anyway. At least not the most. Again, and with pulling on Miles' knowledge, Orions are not super technically savvy. Now, Klingons might be another matter. They tend to. I'm going to say smart. It's not the right word, but they're a bit more with it, if you like. Right. Anyway, so back to you. So so you've now been let out of your tool shed.
Pushing him out the airlock.
Yeah. So I've said that explain how the Caliban virus works, and I've checked the captain's head and the blood sample I took some moments ago using the cat's blood sample. So as I step back, I go, scan him. He'll have Katani blood on his head. He's infected. Check him now.
The guy with the tricorder then looks at the captain and says, "So what do you want? What do you want me to do? I don't take orders from you."
Check him, man. Our lives depend on it.
Captain says. The captain, he looks slightly pale, which is odd considering he's bright green. But he kind of looks a slightly paler green. And he wipes it. Says, "But this is not my blood. Where is this blood? What are you doing?"
Check him. If that's Katani blood, we are doomed.
But this is not my blood. I am not bleeding. Where does this blood come from? Did you put this blood on me? What are you doing?
Osmosis. Come on, man. Quick, check him now. Quick, check him.
Fine, scan it. I don't care. You're beginning to bore me, Vulcan. I think I'll throw you out of an airlock just to see you squirm.
Well, I'll be alive when you lot won't.
Well, not for long, but okay. Okay, so fine, scan me. I don't care. And so the Orion again fiddles with this tricorder. He obviously isn't very good at using this stuff. So at this point, one of the Klingons comes striding across. Enough of this messing about. Give me that. And he pulls the tricorder off the guy and he runs the tricorder over you and he says, "It's definitely Kalani blood. What's Kalani blood?"
Kalani blood is the only way we can tell if you've got the Kaladian virus. Kalandian virus. If you ooze by basic osmosis, photosynthesis, out of your cranium follicles, you have the virus. Unfortunately, your captain is infected. That means we need to lance this boil immediately before the rest of us succumb to this.
Why is it, Leaf Eater, that I feel that you are trying to pull the wool over our eyes? That's not really a Klingon term. What's a better term for that? Why is it, Leaf Eater, that I think you are lying, you are deceiving us?
Full of bullshit.
I'm a Klingon.
No, you're a Vulcan.
I'm going to say, yes, that's clearly. I am a Vulcan.
He said, you're bloody not a bloody Klingon.
That's one lie too far.
Yeah. Even they can tell you're not a Klingon. Yeah, make a dice roll. Oh, bloody hell.
How much credit?
Oh, yeah, he's a Klingon. I'm a Vulcan.
He's delusional, that's what he is.
I can see what you are, Leafeater.
So, we have 6 minutes.
So the Orion, the captain's now looking...
alone, screaming.
Oh, do not worry, Leafeater. If I die, it will not be alone. And he looks at you with a grin on his face and bares his teeth at you.
It's not a warrior's death.
Does I feel fine?
It's a sick old man's death.
Come, enough of this. And he walks away and gestures to his mate. The Orion captain's going to... I'm not in... I feel fine.
No. I'm going to step back. Whoa, no. Don't come near me. Don't come near me. The glassing.
Okay, so the Orion captain now is beginning to look a little bit fed up with this whole thing. Because apart from anything else, his crewmen are now looking at him with suspicion. He says, enough. We are on a schedule. We need to rendezvous with the faction ship within the hour.
I'm afraid, Captain, you may not make it.
Enough of this. I feel fine. Guard, throw him back in the tool. Throw him back in the tool shed. Throw him back in confinement. Enough of this. You, and he talks to the Adorman.
Before you do that, let me check on the patient.
That is the first sensible thing you have said since you came out.
But don't come near me, please.
Guard, take him to the stasis pod. You make sure that the councilman is not going to die anytime soon.
Well, he'll live longer than you in that stasis cube.
Okay. The captain goes over to a wall panel and he starts talking into the communicator panel, and you see him still rubbing his head and sort of going. So he's obviously not entirely convinced.
But he is checking his watch. Watching the minutes count.
Well, I'm here in 10 minutes and he's alive.
Okay, and the guard takes you over to the stasis pod. So the stasis pod is where it was beamed in. You have a quick look at it and it looks as it did before.
I'm testing a theory that if I can overheat or overpower one of the cryo pods, it'll explode loudly. I need to get that exploding now.
You're going to blow up the stasis pod?
No, because it'll have several cryo tubes, like a CO canister. I want to blow one of the CO canisters.
Okay.
Has it been plugged in? Has it got power?
It has been plugged in again. So
I'm trying to create an energy burst that will give my team on the other ship an energy reading that they can hone in on and pull us through. Okay. Because I have no idea that you've jumped over.
Okay, so
you assume we're scanning the ship.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you're looking for the energy signature because that's the obvious thing to do.
You're looking at the pod. The guard is as I say, this guard has got his weapon out
and
still and is watching. But you're able to. Again, he's not interfering with what you're doing in terms of examining the pod. As you are working, the hatch to the cargo bay or to the section of the cargo bay opens, and you see that the Adorman medic is roughly pushed through the hatch, and he's under guard. He's brought in under guard. He's got a gun in his back, and he sees you and kind of shows signs of relief in that you're okay and that there's a familiar face because he's obviously been imprisoned and he's pushed in, and the captain sees him and strides over and says, "Oh, good. What is this Caladan? What is it, Caladan virus?"
What was the name of the medical officer?
I've got it written down, which is unlike me. I went to all the trouble of coming up with all of these very complicated Adorman names, so bear with me. Al Bant is his name.
I'm going to shout, Al Bant, stay away from the captain. He has the Caladan virus. He has moments to live.
Caladan virus?
Wink. Wink.
Okay, so he looks at you with some confusion. But, okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let me make a little roll for him. Let's see whether he cottons on. Can I just borrow your D20s, please?
It's alright, lads, we should be alright.
Oh, no, that's good. Good. Okay, 2 successes, right, yeah.
I've got the thick one.
Okay, so he picks up on your body language because, again, he spent some time with, so he catches your eye and you sort of...
The tiny blood is oozing from his head.
You essentially wink at him and he kind of picks up on it and he says, who's got Caladan? Caladan virus? What is this? Oh my God!
The Katani blood is.
Why is he not in containment? Quick, put him in containment. Put that man in containment. At this point, the other Orions around the bay are now looking very, very, very worried. You notice that the Klingons have discreetly removed themselves from the area, despite their bluster. They kind of sauntered off, and so a couple of the Orions in this room. The captain's now looking really pale.
So everyone's focusing on the captain and the medic. Yeah. The guy that's with me.
Yeah, the guard.
I'm going to do a nerve pinch on him.
Mm-hmm. So, do you have the have the nerve pinch?
Yes, I have a nerve pinch. Science and medical. Science all. Oh no, let's forget that.
Hang on a minute. I've got the. I believe I have the PDF of the book. Just check that talent because it's the species template, isn't it?
Yeah.
1 sec. Yeah, you caught me there. I wasn't expecting you to go for that.
Where'd they gone?
I suppose I should just look in your actual rule book, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
It might help, mightn't it?
A, B,
right,
C, Vulcan. So nerve pinch. Show modification. Nerve pinch contains ounce of melee weapon with a 1 thingy, size 1H, and the intensity and non-lethal qualities. You may use science and medical instead of security when attempting nerve pinch.
Okay.
May increase your damage by science and medical disciplines instead of security disciplines. So I'm going to use my xenobiology as a focus.
Okay.
My science and fitness, isn't it? So fitness and science?
Yeah, give me 1 sec. Right, here's the species.
Our page 110.
Yeah, Vulcan, got it.
At the very bottom.
Nerve pinch. You have learned numerous techniques. Some implication counts as a melee weapon with 1. Right, so bring out the old. Melee weapons. Right, so melee attack is a daring plus security task.
Okay, so
with a difficulty of 1, opposed by the target's daring and security.
Now I'd use my science or medicine for the
nerve pinch. So it would be daring plus science or medicine.
Yeah, so both are 4, so it's a moot point. I'm going to use science. I'm going to use daring and science. I'm going to use my value of everything that has an end, especially humans.
Okay, hold on a minute. So why is that appropriate? Because the value is something really.
What?
I'm not really convinced that that's really applicable, to be fair. I mean, you've got focuses, haven't you?
Okay, well, we use focus of xenobiology. So I've got my base dice. My focus, that's fine. I need this to happen, so I'm going
to spend
How about your bottom value?
The Vulcan way is the true way of the universe.
Neck pinch is very Vulcan.
It is very Vulcan.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we use my one determination. I'm going to then chuck in 1 momentum.
You've also, don't forget, got... don't forget, so you've also got some momentum to spend, so you can buy some additional dice if you like.
So the target for a melee is opposed, isn't it?
It is. So I'm just going to tell you what that is right now. Give me 1 sec.
So these extra 2 give me an extra 2 dice.
Well, that gives you a dice that's already rolled a 1, so it's 2 successes.
That's
Yes.
So
it's 2 successes.
So you have it's a melee weapon, and it is. So it's opposed by, what did we say? Lost that completely.
His daring
and security.
Yep.
So that will be a 11.
Okay.
So it's an opposed roll. So I get to make a roll. I have to make a roll as well.
Determination.
And unfortunately, to buy a dice, it costs 2 because the first dice is from that one. So the second dice, unfortunately, that's the way it works.
Okay. So 2. I need 2. I
You
need
can
that
afford
to
it.
Need that to happen. So I've got 2 successes.
Yep.
I roll 3 dice. And I need to get under my 14.
Okay, so I'm going to make the same. Couple of those.
2 under my 14.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that's 4 successes.
Okay, and I have.
Yep.
Using one of these, because you had 2, you had a 1. Does that definitely count?
Yeah.
That would
I got
count
1
as-
success. So I only got 1 success.
I got 4, but also because I use the focus with my determination, I automatically get 2 successes.
Yeah.
So you should get the momentum from
so I
that.
get 2
right?
momentum back.
So how many successes did you get?
2.
So the difficulty was
No,
of 1.
so total of 4.
Total 4.
You get 3 momentum then, because that's 3 over the target.
Yep.
You beat me because I only got 1 success. You got 3, so you beat me.
Yep.
So right, he drops like a stone essentially. So you just go. And you
Oh my God, Captain!
stereotypical Star Trek nerve pinch where he goes, and then drops to the ground. Just completely goes. And
I'm going to step back and go, oh, he's dead!
what? And
The cannon virus got him!
they'll spin round.
Oh, no, before that I'm going to wipe some more blood on his head. Just to,
Great. Right, so the captains. So that again. So the, as you say, the commotion with everyone listening to the other guy, to the Adorman, who's kind of, oh my God, and of course then this guy drops. Captain then goes, and he's now completely. You can see he's completely confused and hasn't got an idea in hell what's going on. And you can sense that he's beginning to lose his grip on things a little bit. So, as you say, the guard drops to the ground and he literally is just completely KO'd. He just drops like a stone without a sound. You've smeared more blood on him. And again, the Adorman now you notice that Cal Bant is now enjoying this a little bit, and he kind of goes, "Oh my God! Look, he has the Caladan virus! Oh, we're all going to die!" And the Orions now are backing away.
so
and
ignore the
really,
captain and look at the Exo, and so Exo, we need to drop the shields and jump to sublight. Not sublight, sub.
That's fair. I'll do.
Impulse.
To be unfortunately, you're not actually at warp at the moment. Then,
But we need to jump to sublight, otherwise. By jumping to sublight, we have a minimal chance of dropping this virus. Exo. Or should I say, Captain? Ignore the other captain. Because he's dead to me.
right.
Where's the bridge, man? Come on.
Okay, so the captain is literally dumbfounded. Now he's looking really worried. However, the other Orion that you're speaking to, because you have no clue who the XO is, because he's just another Orion.
I've just picked the most important one.
Most impressive looking one.
Yeah.
But the Orion captain looks at you and says, "Can you cure me? Is it too late for me? Can you cure me?"
There is an old.
We're not at warp anyway. We have not left. We're not at warp. But can you cure me? Come on, hurry! I only have 6 minutes left.
There is an old Vulcan technique that may cure you.
It's involving airlock.
I need some.
Does it involve putting your hand on his neck? By any chance?
I need some lard. I need 3 oranges.
What is lard?
And a black coat. Black cape. Quick then, quick. The captain's life's at stake. Some fruit, some grease, and a black cape. Quickly, quick. The captain's life's at stake.
Fine.
I'm not even going to go.
I've got no clue what's going on. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for now. Back to you two. I think we're getting carried away here. So you two are
I'm
now
watching
in.
all this happen.
Yeah, but to be fair, okay, that's fine. Yeah,
You're sitting on the bench and go, I'll give it a couple of minutes, see how this plays out.
He's got this under control.
So you're in the Jeffries
This is the
tubes.
best entertainment we've had all week.
You're in the Jeffries tubes.
Yeah.
And again, you have not been observed by anybody. So again, as far as the Orions know, and particularly with now that all that's going on in the bloody hangar bay, in the
What if we
cargo
get to the bridge from here?
bay, it's a long walk because don't forget you're down here.
Yeah.
The bridge is right at the front. I mean, this ship is 100 metres long. It is ugly. I mean, I just grabbed this is an Orion. It is meant to be an Orion ship, but the point is the Orions will use anything, and it's not. There's no standard.
Tramp freighter.
Not even symmetrical.
No.
But it's pretty ugly looking.
It is
Keep looking at it
actually.
going, it's just no.
But anyway, what it'll do. So the point is, getting to the bridge is impractical. That's way uphill. And besides, as you know, what are you going to do on the bridge? But
turn life support off.
Okay. You do realise you need to breathe as well, yes? Anyway, it's up to you though. You're in the Jeffries tubes. You haven't been detected as far as you know.
Okay.
You're fairly sure that your shipmate is on board. Would make sense. Other than that, you don't know much else. You've got weapons. You know...
Would you know where the shuttle bay is?
He would, yeah. The shuttle bay is at the top end of this section. If you can't see it, but it'll be behind. So it's literally at the top of this. This is like the cargo support section. The shuttle bay is at the very top, back of that section. So it's probably 3 or 4 decks above you at the stern. So, but yes, Miles will know.
But we don't know.
Without
the trouble is
too much trouble.
We've got to find him.
Yeah. So I think our first stop off would have been there to see what we're working with, shuttle bay wise, and then we would have.
Okay. I mean, let's say this: while he's been carrying out this performance, you've had a good 5 or 6 minutes.
Yep.
And to be fair, you probably have been able to go up a couple of decks already because it's just literally going down Jeffries tube up a couple of ladders.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume that if you've got to the within a few minutes, you reach the shuttle bay or at least the vantage point. Now, obviously, what you have to bear in mind is that the Jeffries tube probably won't open directly onto the shuttle bay because, of course, if the shuttle bay is depressurised,
but it should be somewhere,
then that would be a problem. So you'll be in a side corridor near to the shuttle bay. Like all shuttle bays, there'll be essentially there'll be a command, like a command deck where the shuttle bay, there's like an observation gallery where they will manage landing and it's similar to a Starfleet vessel or any vessel. But you are in a side corridor, and again, these ships are not generally not heavily manned, so you're not going to see. There's not 300 or 400 crew wandering about like on a Starfleet vessel. Generally, so you've come into a corridor, and again, you can listen at the grate, and it's quiet. You can pop the grate out, and you're in a corridor.
Okay. And
there's nobody in sight.
I'm going to try and move silently and try and find.
That's not really a problem for either of you. You're Cation, so by nature you're quite
don't wear boots.
Dexterous, and you're a trained.
I'm wearing a Klingon stealth coat.
Yeah, clank, clank, clank. But you're also very good at moving around because you're trained in covert operations, and so again, we'll just assume that you two can move about quite easily.
Okay.
So in the shuttle bay, do we see any shuttles?
Okay. So you come into the cargo into the hangar bay control room. It's not really it's a booth really.
Yeah.
You enter cautiously. There's nobody inside. The control panels are dim. They're not active. Inside the shuttle bay, there are several small craft. So, there is what looks like a. So there are a couple of shuttlecraft, which essentially they're like Starfleet shuttles. They're small, 6 or 7 person.
Sublight or.
They've got warp engines. I've been thinking about this with the whole Discovery thing, because I mean I've always assumed that the shuttlecraft from the original series had warp engines because they've got warp nacelles.
Yeah.
There's no point in having a shuttlecraft that can't go at warp because it can't go anywhere. They
got warp, but it's only it's not the fact they haven't got warp; it's got limited range.
Yeah. So these are like Starfleet shuttles in that, and again in this era. As far as I'm concerned, most shuttlecraft will have some form of warp drive. So they have, presumably they're warp shuttles. Okay. There's also a larger ship that looks like I guess a cargo lander. So it's essentially 2 or 3 times the size of the shuttles. It's probably designed for moving bigger containers and things around.
We probably want the shuttles then, not the cargo container.
Yeah,
so Miles will look to Kaz and ask, are there any of these that you can pilot?
I can pilot them all.
Yeah, you wouldn't have too much trouble.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to be doing anything too fancy in them because again, you're not used to the controls. But again, the control surface.
That was sort of my. Was there any that you're familiar with? Like, I used to fly one of these back on.
Yeah, I can fly them all.
I was just showing 2 teams.
The only thing I was going to say. Right. Okay. Next week, if we can sabotage one of the shuttles to cover our escape, because obviously there's more than one ship, so we get everybody into one shuttle.
Give one a flat tyre. Yeah, I like that.
No, I wasn't thinking of a flat tyre. I was thinking more of a forced warp core breach or something like that.
What?
Okay.
Overload it so it blows up.
Yeah.
Well, like, why are you bloodthirsty? Because a warp core breach is not a good thing. Because even on a shuttle, it's.
But we need to do something. We need to do something that. Because I
would say, so far you haven't really had too much of a problem because they don't know you're here. I mean, again, Orions are essentially they're pirates, they're raiders, they're not.
But what I'm saying is we need a distraction to stop this ship.
And even the sick ones.
We need a distraction to stop this ship chasing us.
Oh, I don't know. I think he's working on that. He's pretty much got that in hand. Although you don't know that.
If we're looking to take a shuttle and disable the other shuttles, we would assume that we're also disabling this ship because they'd have no need to follow us otherwise in the shuttles.
But the ship is a cargo hauler. It probably wouldn't have warp. Probably.
It's got warp.
Oh, it's got warp.
It's a big ship. Yeah, it's not. It wouldn't get here otherwise. Don't forget, the Valenti was at warp for 3 or 4 days to get to this location. So again, in this universe, as far as I'm concerned, everything's got warp because there's no point otherwise. You can't get anywhere.
Yeah.
So it's got warp.
Okay, we'll take.
Let fresh food go off.
Sorry. Yeah. Exactly. The 35 years between stars would be a bit of a problem.
Bit of a bummer. Okay, well, we'll take the cargo hauler then. If it's the bigger ship, if it's just as capable as the shuttlecraft.
You don't know if it's just as capable. I mean, when I say it's bigger, I mean it's designed for. Obviously, it's not. It's designed. It's like a transit van. So
yeah, but what I'm saying
compared to your saloon car, it's a transit van. It's designed. It's obviously designed for carrying cargo. You don't know. I mean, you assume again it's got warp capability. Whether or not it's any quicker or not than the shuttles, you don't know.
As I say, I thought you were on a bit.
Again, let's use one call upon Miles' knowledge here. He's got a bit of.
Okay.
So Miles has got a bit of familiarity. Ultimately, the shuttles are probably used as a combination of shuttles/fighters. In other words, Orions tend to pick on easy targets, generally speaking. Certainly, the average Orion raider, the Valenti would seem to be a good, typical target. In other words, unarmed, slow. So having a couple of armed shuttlecraft flying about that could, harry smaller ships is probably so you would guess that it's probably they're probably armed, even if it's just with a phase, nothing massive, but they're probably just armed with phasers or a phaser, and
would they have better shields?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Shuttlecraft.
And it's probably more agile, and it's probably got better range and quicker. The cargo hauler is designed for
hauling cargo.
Yeah, taking stuff down in and out of orbit, and
Yeah, but that's what I was trying to think. Is it just orbit to planet? Rather
you don't know, but it looks like it's got warp engines on it, but it's slower. It's more, So the shuttlecraft, go with the shuttle.
Rather than actually disable it, why don't you fly out of the ship on autopilot and then set it warping out, so that the captain of the ship sees that a shuttlecraft has left quickly and has warped out.
Not a bad idea.
Would they be able to pick up life signs on it? Do we think? Because if they can do that and see that there's no life signs, that's going to send everyone to our location.
I don't know. It's interesting because
if we're going to do that, then we nab a couple of guards, stun them, chuck them on the shuttle, and then warp it out.
I mean, obviously they have sensors. Again, I try to remember that Starfleet are meant to be the best of the best, and so
are they going to do that?
So are they going to think of it? Probably not immediately, but you're right.
If you wanted to transport someone, you need to get a lock on them, so they'd be able to pick up whether or not there's anything on there. I'm just thinking if we send one out, it's a beacon, and
there's probably a 50-50 chance that they would think to check. So on the face of it, seeing a shuttle leave and go warping off, they're likely to go, "Oh my God, there's somebody on that shuttle."
Quick, there's a plate carrier.
However, they're not they're not stupid. They're just not. It's not in their mindset. So I would say there's probably a 50-50 chance that somebody would think to check and go, "Oh, hang on a minute, there's nobody on it." At least initially, you get the initial surprise value because, of course, seeing the shuttle leave.
Spending threat, and the advantage is they forget to scan.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
And then it just costs us threat. But
what are we gaining by doing that?
A distraction. Get rid of one of the shuttles.
Distraction's great, but for us,
who
are we distracting and what are we doing with that? If we don't yet know where you are. So,
right, second question.
Hold on a sec, go on. Sorry, finish your thought.
If we were maybe to program it to veer around and crash into the ship itself.
Yep.
I think that gives us more of a benefit than just sending a craft out and then possibly giving away our location and suggesting that there's someone else on board. Because at the minute, nobody knows we're here. But we need to do something big with it.
Send it out and crash into the bridge.
Right. Right. So you two, you're going to try and hot wire the shuttle.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to that in a second. So again, the shuttle bay is empty because again, there's no shuttle operations going on at the moment. They don't have a big enough crew that they have somebody on duty all the time. So they presumably only come down to the shuttle bay when it's being used. So at the moment, you have the shuttle bay to yourself. You don't know whether there are sensors or security sensors, but again, with Miles, I would tell you that Miles knows that it's very unlikely. Again, it's not that they're not stupid; they're just a bit lax. They're not military. They're not, they do things when they have to do them. They don't go as a rule.
It's a merchant marine crew. It's not
exactly. And they're an argumentative, sloppy merchant marine crew. So again, they're not a Federation merchant marine crew who are better disciplined. They're kind of
and they're probably not on alert. I think
exactly. They think they've got everything under control.
Yeah.
The only thing that's thrown a spanner in the works is having Starfleet people around.
Yeah.
Again, you don't know that Kevin overheard that conversation, but obviously the captain, at some level, was involved in this, and they aren't happy that he's got Starfleet involved. But again, as far as they know, they've got one Starfleet guy on their ship. The other two that they know about are still on the other ship, which isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
You've got no shuttles. You've got no means of escape.
I'm 90% convinced the medical officer, the medical officer, is on my side, given his reactions.
I think that's perfectly acceptable to go with that.
The other thing I was thinking, the other thing that occurred to me, comm badges.
Yep.
Could we turn ours on to receive only?
You probably can. I mean, they're again with all these devices, they're all.
But his would have to be. So we wouldn't talk to him. But can we listen to what he's doing? Can we? Do you see what I'm saying?
I spy in on. I think he has to open.
I know it's a stretch. He'd have to open it.
I don't think you could, but because again, you've got limited tools.
Right. So we've got 4 momentum. We could spend 2 momentum to create an advantage to have my comms on.
Yeah.
That's certainly within your.
Because David would probably want to.
Because then we don't have to listen to. Let's say we don't have to reply, but we can understand what he's.
And there's a degree of logic to that. So I don't mind spending 2 momentum. So my comms is on.
And that's exactly what momentum is for. Again, to create an advantage, you can change the narrative slightly to give you a benefit. That's absolutely fine.
So Miles hears that there's this virus on the ship, and he looks to Kaz and he's like, "We've just got to get out of here. There's a virus on the ship. Leave them.
Screw him, yeah. I tell you what, we better burn the ship, mate. We'll just make sure it's all self-contained, doesn't spread.
We better nuke it from orbit.
But it's the only way to be sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So back in the so you two can then get to work on the shuttle.
Yep. And if we're listening in, then we probably have an idea of where he's going to be.
Yeah. So
you men, get this this guy on the floor into the airlock. Catch him quickly.
One thing. Hang on a second. So you feel your badge vibrate slightly because again it's a bit like a phone on mute.
Yep.
So the fact that it kind of goes and it doesn't chirp, it doesn't make a noise, but you feel it activate and you go, that's been activated to receive. Because again, this is this is not an uncommon capability, so you know from that tone, if you like, that so you're now aware that your comm badge has been activated.
I'm going to take a massive leap of faith.
Okay. And you're listening. We're listening. You know someone's listening to it.
And you know that pretty much that it's likely that it's these two because they're the only two who've got Starfleet comm badges in range.
Captain, it may have got even worse. We may have a manifestation on the ship.
What? What?
As you've been infected, the Qatari blood has oozed from your head. Our friend here is dead. You need to scan the ship for a Qatari. If there is a Qatari on the ship, we have a major manifestation.
What is Qatari? Where did this Qatari come from?
I think the guy with the tricorder. Scan the ship now. If we have a manifestation,
I don't know what I'm looking for. What is the Qatari? I didn't know. You take it. I don't know what I'm looking for.
And I'm going to simply drop. So I'm going to tap away at it. My jaw's going to drop, and I'm going to simply drop the thing on the floor, smashing it, and go. We have a manifestation. We need to get to the escape pods. We need to get to the escape pods.
Okay, I think you're going to have to make another convince roll here because I think this is now. I think he's now getting to the point.
That's a new level of bullshit.
That's a new level of bullshit.
So I'm going to go with.
And I'm going to give him an opposed roll.
Science. So I'm going to drop the momentum into this.
So sorry, what are you going to go with?
I'm still going to use the infectious diseases.
Yeah.
and I'm going to go with an extra momentum. So I'm going to go.
So what attribute and what discipline?
Control and science.
Okay, so he's got really terrible, but we'll go for it.
I've got 3 dice. So
Okay.
spend a
He's only got 2. You're going to spend another momentum.
Yeah,
Okay.
I need this to work.
I'm going to give him. I'm going to spend because I've got loads of momentum. So I'm going to give him.
Who was giving him all threat earlier?
Could I suggest
Hang on a
that
minute.
it's possibly reason and not control?
You can go with
reason
that.
and science, reason and medicine.
Whichever you think is. Yeah, I mean, and you are able to change those to whatever.
So reason and either medicine
Within
or
reason.
science.
What have you gone with? Reason and science.
Yeah.
So he's only got 7 anyway. Hang on a minute. I'm going to give him. So that's right. So that's 1. That's 2. I'm going to give him an extra 3 dice because he's actually got no or very little chance of actually succeeding at this.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, so I'm going to get rid of some of my threat that I've been accumulating, and I'm going to give him. Hold on. 1, 2. Gee, I think I had more D20. Oh, yeah, sorry, no, I've got some. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need one more. Oh, thank you. So green is your one. Ooh.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for that. Oh, okay, that's really good. Okay, well, that's not bad. That's 3 successes.
3 successes.
Thank you for that. 3 successes.
So,
no complications. So, okay, but you've got 3 successes.
Okay.
So you need to beat 3 successes.
I'm going to give you another threat.
Right,
So I've got 4 dice. I've got to get under 15.
Give me that threat. Yeah, that's all right.
Yes, I've got to get under 15.
So have you got any 1s first of all?
Oh shit, 2. I've got 2 successes.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Fine. So he basically says, right, enough. Oh, hang on, what's happened there? Has that just gone to sleep? Is it literally powered off?
Looks like it.
Is it plugged in?
It's probably just gone to sleep.
Is it plugged in?
Yeah. Right, it doesn't matter.
I could do with.
That's all right. It's
Should I
probably
give you another threat for another dice, or can I do that?
it must have just powered off. So essentially, he just doesn't believe you. So he says, he's willing. He seems still convinced by the disease because the guy's dropped in front of him.
Did
but
you
he's
actually
not.
scan? So you would know the location of where we are?
Good. Yeah, well done. That's good
Yep.
thinking. So exactly.
And it's smashed, so
Yeah.
they don't.
Right. So you were able to lock on to the comm badges
Yeah.
because again, a Starfleet comm badge gives a distinctive.
So what room are we in?
So you are in the. I'll get back to that in a second. One sec.
We're in Disneyland.
Yeah, no, that was the Olympic Village actually.
No.
Snakes.
What's that?
Why
Why'd it have to be snakes?
And why'd it have to be snakes?
Right, so if you remember, this is the cargo section. This is the back end. That's the front. That's the back. So this is the cargo decks. At the moment, you're on probably the middle cargo deck. These guys are essentially a deck above you in the shuttle bay.
Look, Captain, this middle
So
cargo deck
again,
will
so
not.
when you use the tricorder, you use the tricorder.
Yep.
To lock on to scan for Starfleet comm badges, which you know how to do, and you found them, and you found that they're above you. So you now know that they're in the shuttle bay.
So I'm going to say, look, Captain, this middle cargo deck will not contain you and your 6 crew. I suspect me and the medical officer may live.
There are 25 of us on this ship. Not 6 of us.
There's only 6 of us here in the middle.
Okay.
In the middle area.
Yeah.
So, Captain, I think
And we can hear this?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we need to send 2 men to get this to dump this body in the nearest cargo.
This poor guy.
He needs to go in the airlock soon.
Okay, so
Captain.
he calls out something in Orion, and 2 of the Orions kind of reluctantly grab Matey Boy and pull him away.
So that, and I'm going to give him.
I mean, he's still unconscious because Vulcan nerve pinch. He's out of it for a while.
So I'm going to give a subtle narration. You 2 take him to the airlock.
Okay. Well, they take.
So hopefully these can do the math and go there. Where there's got to be there's no less in there.
Okay, so they drag him away.
Now, Captain, let me see what I can do. Come here. Go down. Let's see if I can do this Vulcan medicine check.
Right, so in the room now, you've got those three.
Really?
So there's one other guy in the immediate vicinity.
Yeah.
One other Orion who was you assumed was the Exo. As far as, he isn't, but he's the kind of other guy.
Has he got a gun on him?
Yeah, they're all armed. But I mean, it's in his holster, so he's not. He's not.
They're just confused.
They're very confused. Yeah, they're easily. Yeah, you've confused the. I mean, you confused the hell out of me, so you've confused the hell out of them.
So my next goal is to get the captain to kneel so I can do a nerve pinch on him. But I'm going to lock eyes with the medic, and I'm going to use my eyes to effectively tell him to go behind the other guy and knock him out as I knock this guy out.
Okay.
You know.
That's reaching.
Well, no, I mean, okay, he's okay.
Kind of like do a little one trick. Just
to be honest, if you think about it, though. You probably don't even need to do that because the point is, if you nerve pinch the guy and he drops, I mean, again, that kind of in itself is a distraction. Yeah. Again, okay. You know, I suppose, you know, maybe Orions should know about nerve pinches, but again, you've kind of got them really off guard at the moment. They don't really know what the hell's going on, and okay. You've managed to play it to a degree where they're kind of along for the narrative. So perhaps if they were in a different situation, they might not be quite so involved in it. But because you've managed to sort of play events to your advantage,
yep.
It's like the charlatan who's kind of, you know, is there a George in the room? You know, yeah. And they're kind of buying into it, and they're not quite sure what's going on, but they know there's something going on, and they're kind of
Captain, please allow me.
Okay, so and he's
a willing victim.
Yeah, he is
to
a willing
North
victim. Yeah, he comes over.
So I need him to drop, so I'm going to use the last momentum we have to make this guy drop because that really.
Okay, so that'll buy you an extra dice. Yeah.
Extra dice. So it's going. What is it? Control and science.
It's going to be. This is for the nerve pinch.
It says fitness and science. Sorry, it says 14. It's 13.
Done it. And he gets an opposed roll, but again, he's got a really really terrible.
No, just two successes.
Okay, hold on a sec. But don't worry, he's got really terrible. No, I'm not going to give him momentum. I'm not going to buy extra dice because again, he's, as you say, essentially he's a willing participant. So he only got one success. So
why is it not 3 successes?
Because I 13. My fitness and science is 14. Yeah. It's 13.
So okay, so yeah, you beat him though. He only got one success, so he essentially drops.
I can jump back, and go. We're doomed, and look at the other guy. We're doomed, and just go run.
And he totally runs because again, as far as I'm concerned, you've established the narrative, and he just goes and his first reaction is to leg it. And he doesn't know quite what he's running from, but he's just like, So now you're left on your own.
I don't know.
You're on your own in the room with the captain's unconscious on the deck. The Adorman medic is looking at you with some respect. He says, what is going on? I do not know what is going on. What is going on?
We're in mid cargo bay.
So you're middle cargo bay. But so
mid cargo bay now.
Okay, so your communicators now chirp, and you can answer them.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we hear that you're talking through it,
get to the shuttle base.
We know it's safe to. Yeah.
Well,
have you got the ambassador?
Okay, so
we can use the energy signature to transport him out. You dolts. Yes.
And we both at the same time palm our foreheads. So, is it not best for you to make your way to us?
Do we know?
And I'm going to say brace yourself because there's going to be an impact. Because we're still attempting to fly a shuttle into the.
Would I know do I know where the shuttle base?
Probably not, to be honest with you, would he?
Or does the Endorian with me?
No. I mean, you can these guys. You can guide him.
Oh, so no, I know their location from the transport.
Well, the tricorder will give you a rough direction and bearings.
Well, it's smashed now, but I knew.
But I mean, again, as far as you know, they've flipping quarantined the whole cargo section off because now they're going like, what's that?
Well, I'll give a brief description. I'll say, we're at the shuttle bay hangar.
And don't forget,
you need to go up here and
don't forget these ships will have turbo lifts, so you just go out into the corridor from the cargo bay. There'll be a turbo
shuttle bay.
Yeah, shuttle bay.
Okay.
And let's make it easy. I always forget that, but they've got turbo lifts.
I'm going to say, come with me.
Calbant,
come with me.
Okay, so he comes with you. So, are you planning to go and beam the
Well, tell us
Are
about.
you going to transport the stasis pod into the shuttle?
Yes, I can use the energy signature to get a lock on it.
Okay, can I just check one thing of this plan, which maybe I missed? So,
does the shuttle have a transport pod?
The plan is to send one of the shuttles out. Are you going to use the other shuttle to get away in,
yes.
or are you? Okay, and then the other one you're going to fly in. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So you
grab the captain's gun.
Yeah, that's fine. So you give that to Calbant, and there's another gun from the guard who dropped his gun.
Does anybody actually go out the airlock? Or?
Then they take them to the airlock.
He's got to wake up just as they release
No!
As he sees us flying past. But at no point have I lied to them about, and I've elaborated anything. But when he asked me, he said, "Are you lying?" I didn't say I was.
To be
lying.
fair, I did note that because that's a very Vulcan thing to do. So you haven't actually told a lie.
You didn't lie.
You've exaggerated.
He exaggerated.
But you haven't. That virus does exist. The symptoms mirror what you've said, but you've obviously manufactured things to support your thesis. But that's fine.
I was testing the theory that these are gullible.
Exactly.
Idiots.
No, that's perfect. That's perfectly acceptable.
They are.
Right. So.
Yeah, we're running to the shuttle bay.
So you leave the cargo bay, and again, the cargo bay isn't even. They haven't even locked the cargo bay. You can leave the cargo bay.
There is a gap in my plan, and that's this bit. I can get that off. I can't. I don't really have next.
Okay. So you come out of the cargo bay into the corridor.
I think we would meet them partway, in case there's resistance on the.
Well, if you meet them part way, then I'll stay in the shuttle and get it fired up.
Okay.
Ready. And if the shuttle bay's got transporters, or at least a transporter, not bad.
The shuttle's got a transport on it.
Then I'm going to try and lock onto. I'll ask you where the stasis chamber is.
Stasis chamber.
You can just put your. Why don't you just put your comm badge on the?
Because then he can't talk to us.
Okay, but he knows where he's going. So it's up to you. Just saying that's an easy way to do it. Is you put the comm badge on the.
It's got an energy signature of 3.5 parsecs. Oh yeah, there.
Parsecs?
They made the Kessel run in less than 12 of them.
We didn't know. I'm making this shit.
That's absolutely fine. So you provide him with the energy signature.
I'll lock onto the.
And you can do that.
It's the only Dorian energy signature on the ship.
That's fine. You can do that relatively easily.
Okay.
So you on the. You're in the shuttle. You manipulate the. It's like a Federation runabout. It's it's a shuttle. It's got a transporter terminal in it. You can beam the stasis pod in. It does fill up most of the rear compartment, but you can.
I can give you a threat to contain advantage. I've already disconnected the stasis tube, ready for transporting. Otherwise, it's going to rip out the wall.
Will it rip or would it just transport?
I wouldn't allow you to do that.
It would just cut. Because
it
would just effectively the beam would come down and cut the
clear up a mystery. The captain had been to had basically disconnected the thing. So, however, as you say, it would just essentially cut the. It would just.
But obviously, we need to plug it back in again. So if I
you can plug it back into the shuttle power supply because it's just a generic. It's a standard. It's literally a plug socket. Okay. I mean, I don't want to simplify, but it's essentially just a standard power unit. So you can easily just plug in another one, and it does have. Batteries, so it will continue to work for a little while without being plugged in. So there's no real danger to him. So you can easily transport it. So you can see I don't know if you're sticking around to see it go, but you see the thing transport. You leave the shuttle bay, the cargo bay.
I glance back,
and you can just get into a turbo lift, and it will take you up 2 decks, and you come out, and you're pretty much at the shuttle bay. And as you So you come out of the turbo lift into the corridor, and the hangar bay control room is just ahead of you. So Miles, have you gone to meet them outside? Mm-hmm. Okay, as you so you come out of the cargo bay. You come out of the control room. You're in the shuttle, getting it warmed up. So are you going to do you want to jury rig the other one to do what you wanted it to do? So you're going to have to make a roll for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to be.
Could I slave it into the controls on this one?
That would be more complicated. It's easier to just hack the autopilot effectively.
Okay.
Set it on a parabolic course to leave the thing and fly around and just fly into the ship.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be.
I can give you a help.
That's going to be, what's it? I've also got helm operation, so helm operation and...
Yep, so you're going to have to make a... I would say that's going to be probably a control and con... No, I'm going to say I think reason and con probably.
So I do an assist.
Because you're going to have to figure out a way to program the commands that you need to do. So go with reason and con for me.
Is it a time to use your determination?
Yeah, you could do that.
Get 2 instant successes.
Yeah.
So if I do an assist...
So you can spend that.
I've got 6.
Yeah, and you're going to use the helm operation focus if it applies. You need to roll so you've got 2 successes automatically. So the difficulty of doing this is a 2.
Yeah.
So you've already succeeded by spending your determination point, and if you then get additional successes, that gives you more momentum. So if you want, you can then use that to create advantage, and you can then... Yes, you got 1, so that's 3 successes.
But are you... So we all collected together?
So you've got 3 successes in total. Mike failed his 2.
Spectacularly.
Lucky I'm here.
And so you can... so you get 1 point of momentum back into the pool. So yes, you are able to program it. So you've discussed with Miles the best weak spot, if you like, for the... Because again, you don't particularly want to destroy the ship, but you want to inconvenience it. So probably fly it straight into the navigational deflector. Because if the navigational deflector's taken out, then it can't go. It can't travel at warp until they repair it. So that's the best way of crippling it without damaging the ship beyond repair. Because you don't want to kill him, you just want to get away, right?
Yep.
So yeah, you've programmed it's going to fly out. So go,
well, Miles doesn't mind if a few of them die.
Yeah, if a few of them can die.
They're probably going to run around killing themselves anyway because of oh no, we've got this terrible disease.
Well, of course, what is interesting now is, of course, that the time has now gone past the time that you'd said that people are going to start dying. And although the
shuttle hasn't hit
sooner
yet.
or later the captain's going to wake up. Yeah. So again, time is against you a little bit because sooner or later they're going to clock. Yeah. So you're getting the shuttle warmed up.
Yeah, I've got the other one up and running.
You come out of the control room to greet them. They come out the turbo lift, and then as they come out the turbo lift, you see at the end of from down the corridor, a couple of Orions come running down the corridor, and they start shooting down the corridor at you. You don't know whether they've clocked the deception or what's going on, but they just come literally running around the corner and they... So we're going to move into combat a little bit. Give that a go. So I'm going to you're going to have the initiative, because in Star Trek Adventures it's assumed that unless there's a really good reason that the opponents have the initiative, you're going to get it because you're the heroes of the system. So what would you like to do? So you are not you probably are armed. You are armed.
Yeah, me and the
Cal.
We're both armed with the captain's gun.
Yeah, both of you are armed. You're also armed. So right.
You should have a better combat score.
I'm sure he has. Yeah.
Security is 5.
So essentially, this combat is going to be at medium range. So the way that the zones that it works in Star Trek Adventures is that you have what they call zones. So you don't have... Is that map? Just do me a favour. Just pass me that. Just slide those miniatures off there, Kevin. Just give me the... I'll just demonstrate on here. So they've got it on here, but the grey line is zoned. So what that means is that each section, they call it different zones. So anything within your immediate zone is considered to be kind of close combat, technically within melee range or kind of in the same area as you. The next one over is counts as essentially, I think, medium range for weapons and things like that. And it increases as you move further away. So the difficulty of the task also increases if there's an enemy within reach of you. So if they're immediately in your vicinity, that increases. But essentially, for this combat, they're going to be in the next. They're going to be essentially what we call medium range. So they're sort of in the next zone over because they're essentially down the... This is not a good example, but they're down the corridor. So they're not right next to you, but they're coming down the corridor at you. But essentially, combat works that you tell me what you're going to shoot, what you're going to use to attack. You determine whether it's lethal or non-lethal. So if the attack is lethal, I get a point of threat. And lethal obviously just means if you're aiming to kill, or if you're using you have a weapon that you're trying to kill with. And then it's a task. So for a ranged attack, it's control plus security with a difficulty of 2. And then if you succeed, if the target has what's called resistance, then that can take off damage. But then essentially you roll the challenge dice, which are the d6s, and that determines what the damage is that's inflicted. That's pretty much it, really. Pretty straightforward. So Miles, I'm going to say you can act first.
Okay,
so there's 2 of these guys.
Yep.
They're shooting wild because they're kind of on the move. So they're as I say, they're kind of in the next zone away from you. So they're not really close, and they're basically shooting without too much aiming going on.
Okay.
So again, within combat, you have, as you mentioned on your
do I recognise
crib sheet, you have minor tasks you can carry out as well. Sorry?
These 2 guys, do I recognise them?
No, they're just generic Orion guys. So minor action. So in a combat round, you can do a task and a minor action, or a number of minor actions. And minor actions are things like aim, draw weapon, drop prone, interact, which means using a computer terminal or something. You can move. And other things like that. And the task is where you're actually doing something. So attacking, you can create advantage, you can do other things, but essentially I'm assuming it's just going to be attacking and then minor actions. So is there any minor actions you want to carry out?
Well, I don't think we want to stand around having a gunfight. I think I want to lay down some cover fire so that everyone can get into the shuttle.
Yep.
So
you have 1 momentum there.
Okay. I'm going to just lay down some cover.
So these guys steal cargo, don't they? So in which case,
they're essentially
hanging from the rafters, are there any heavy lift items? Any cranes?
Not in this section because you're in a corridor. So literally you're in a corridor. So that if we imagine, I mean, again, this is not a great example, but let's assume this is the corridor.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say this is the hangar control room. So if you imagine this is a balcony, this is a level above the floor of the shuttle bay. So there'll be a ladder down to the shuttle deck. So there's 2 shuttles parked here, 2 shuttles and the transporter. We said. So you're in one of the shuttles, another shuttle here. These guys are coming down from around the corridor. You're sort of here, trying to get into the control room, and you come out the turbo lift here. These guys will come running around the corner and they're kind of shooting at you. So you get to fire first, or you get to. So if you want to aim, you want to just lay down covering fire. Did you say?
I do, yeah.
So you can use the minor action of aiming, which means you get to re-roll a d20 as well.
Sounds good.
And I take it you're not. So therefore, if you're laying down covering fire, I assume you're not trying to make a lethal attack.
I am not. No.
Perfect. Right. So as I say, what you do is. Oh, actually, that's interesting. Okay. So, ranged attack is control plus security, difficulty of 2. Straightforward.
Okay.
And do you want to spend? Do you want to use momentum?
I'm going to use momentum. Yeah.
You got momentum and determination, haven't you?
I do indeed have determination. Okay, I'm going to use my determination.
Okay, so that'll give you.
It gives me my instant 2, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm going to give you a bit of latitude here because he's got 2 undefined values, so you can. But you can spend your determination.
Oh, of course.
No, because that's fine. No, you can do that. You can
true.
still do that. Because technically you should only use a value if it's got some bearing on the situation. But
because
he's got 2 that are undecided, let's just go with it. It's fine.
And I'm also doing the right thing.
But a security officer, you would have thought a security officer would have some kind of...
Exactly. So, and he just hasn't defined them yet, but I'm happy to go with that. So that gives you a D20 that's rolled 2 successes automatically.
Yes.
So essentially take your D20 and just go put it on a 1.
Yep.
And say, right, so you've already got 2 successes, so that's great.
Focus
would be hand phase or marksman would be even better. And so just make your roll.
So that would generate me momentum.
You've got 2 successes, so any other successes that you roll will, because it's a difficulty of 2.
Yep.
So it's any successes that you get over and above.
Okay.
So any success you now roll will give you
I thought
momentum.
the reason for using a focus is if the number is below,
then that gives you 2 successes as well. So that essentially counts as... So if you roll under 5, because you've got several there which are certainly... I mean, 2 of those are immediately applicable.
Yep.
Then if you roll under a 5 on any dice, that gives you another 2 successes.
Okay, so
those 2 are automatic because you've spent your determination for that.
Right.
You then roll your normal 2D unless you buy another dice. You can buy another dice with your bit of momentum to give you 3D to roll. Any successes you now roll give you momentum because any success you roll above and beyond the difficulty gives you momentum, which you've already achieved because you've got your 2 successes on that. And again, if you roll under your discipline, which is quite likely with a 5, then you get another 2 successes. So I just made the roll what you've got.
I will. I won't spend the momentum.
There you go. So there you go. So in fact, look at that. That's 2 successes and 2 successes because they're both under your actual.
Yep.
So you get a total of 6 successes.
There's 4.
So that means you get 4 momentum.
That's quite good. That's just when we need momentum.
And so therefore you can tell me exactly what you want that to have the effect of doing because you're because essentially you're aiming to suppress.
I am. So it's cover fire. There's 2 of them. You say
there is. They're running together, but they're literally not being subtle. They're literally running down the corridor, going shooting at you. So
the cover fire is for them to
duck,
to get away, to give enough time for us to be able to move without them shooting.
Yeah,
shoot the loose bulkhead that's above them off and blocking their class.
Knock one of them out.
Why not? I mean, with that result, you've got lots of successes
not
there.
A brilliant ship,
you can spend a momentum to create an advantage, and then you can define what you want to happen. So you spend one of those.
Well, I was also thinking that maybe we would keep the advantage.
Yeah, that means
keep the initiative.
That means you can spend. Yeah, you can spend two momentum.
Yep.
So then one of these guys can then act immediately. So I would say maybe spend 1 to get the advantage, so you can define exactly what you want to happen. In other words, I'm going to shoot out the bulkhead above them so they get hit with steam or something.
So it impairs their vision and it stops them.
And then you also Kevin can then take a shot.
No, what I'll do is I'll move twice do a double move.
Yeah.
So my movement will be both of us.
You can do multiple minor actions. Yeah. So that's perfectly acceptable.
Move twice as fast to get into the So we spent 1 to do for me to do that. Then I because it's my go, will spend another momentum to keep initiative. So then, because you're already in the shuttle bay, for you to run in the shuttle bay. So we're all in the shuttle bay.
Yeah, you can do that.
Ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then we're all out.
Works for me. Right, great. So,
so that's. So we've still got 2 momentum left. I think you haven't got that. But
so are you taking how many minor actions are you going to take?
I do a double.
So that means you've got to spend a point of momentum because each minor action after the first costs you a momentum to 2. So you can do 2.
We're just going to run. So my.
But you've got momentum to spend, and that you can still do that.
Okay.
So
you can use for your combat action. You could use sprint.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So rather than use
sprint.
That's
what I'm going to do. It's the other.
So it's a success of 0.
So in other words, don't shoot because effectively you've succeeded to a degree that. So let's say you've stepped out from here. You've kind of sized it up. You've got a Klingon disruptor pistol, which is a good weapon. It's not a crappy one like the Orion ones that were lying around before. This is actually a decent. Klingon disruptors are pretty good. So you just take aim calmly as they're kind of peppering shots around you, but you're calm under fire. You just
bulkhead or a bit of cargo off,
and you
just knock it in front.
Bang, bang.
Take a shot, and basically,
sparks,
exactly. You basically shoot out an ODN conduit or whatever overhead, and this cabling comes down. There's and they both kind of screech to a halt and throw themselves to the ground as this stuff is in their face. Obviously, the weapons fire stops because they've dropped to they're kind of don't know what the hell's going on, and you then. Go, and you push Cal Bant across. You sprint into it's generic catch-all deck plan, isn't that good? So you sprint across the corridor into the bay without any problem. You are still at the door, just kind of covering them. So you've now got plenty of time to get in, and you can do what you like. Because again, this power relay or whatever is kind of sparking everywhere, and they're not going to be crossing it anytime soon.
Well, we'll lift the ship up enough so we're ready to go. And
so we got the stasis chamber on board.
Yeah, you've got the stasis chamber on board. So you run in now. You can what you can probably do as well is you can probably just seal the door quite easily because again it's designed. It's a
bulkhead.
Yeah, it's a airtight because obviously because it's the shuttle bay.
Shoot it and run.
Because it's the shuttle bay. It's designed that if for some reason the integrity field blows, then this will protect the integrity of the rest of the ship. So this is actually a pretty heavy-duty door. So you can just duck inside the control room and kind of blow out the panel, and they're not going to get through it quick. So you could easily do that.
In my attempt to get into the shuttle, I'm thinking, have we got all the innocent people off the ship? And I think to myself, yes, I think we have. And then it occurs to me that there's the Adornment ship with a lot of innocent Adorments that are just sort of stranded there. So I have that running through my head.
Okay. Good thing is, if you succeed in your plan, they're not going to be able to do much in the way of anything once the deflector goes for a start. They're not going to be able to move. So that's probably going to help because they're going to have other things to worry about than bothering with the Adornment ship.
Okay.
Because again, this isn't about them, stealing cargo. This was all about getting hold of the councilman. Their plan has obviously been sidelined somewhat by having you lot involved. But I totally agree. And maybe what you can do is once you get,
it's just the Adornment ship was stranded, right? They weren't able to move.
But to be honest with you, probably the best thing you do is for us to get out of there.
Agreed.
Get out of there, could call Starfleet in. Because Starfleet can get...
Well, the Adornment Navy, I think...
Well, don't forget, you already sent don't forget, last time you did send a distress signal from the ship. Now, bearing in mind that probably only, a couple of hours or an hour has probably passed in total since this whole thing started.
Yeah.
But you sent a message, a distress signal has been sent.
Yeah. But the thing is, if we've got the prize, we've got the ambassador.
That's what they're after.
We need to get away. We need to get away from that ship.
Essentially, what they're after is they're after the councilman. That was the aim of the game. So if you've got him, they're more interested in you than they are in the Adornment.
Yes.
So you get into the control room, and as I say, you've blocked the door, and you can calmly walk down to the shuttle bay. So you've got the shuttles rigged.
Yeah.
Again, as is common with all these ships, it's got a containment field across the hangar door.
I would like to rappel down the ladder with the hands on the side. The firemen.
You can certainly do that. Why not?
Your signature move.
You can certainly do that. That's absolutely fine. So you rappel down the ladder, and you calmly step onto the shuttle. And this shuttle it's fairly. It's like a next-gen shuttle where they all look the same inside, right? It's got benches down the side. The stasis chamber is humming away contentedly in the middle of the container. So Cal Bant is checking it because again, he's familiar with it.
And make sure
so now that he's with you, he's kind of gives you the thumbs up. It's all good, and you can then do what you want to do, Mike. So. Again, you can open the shuttle bay. The hangar door is open. The other one off. Magnetic field is up.
Set the other shuttle off.
Okay, so the two shuttles fly out from the shuttle bay, and you presumably pull off to a safe distance.
Yeah.
And the other shuttle comes out, and it gracefully loops around and neatly smashes straight into the navigational deflector, which is right there.
Yeah.
And the shuttle literally comes around. Of course, this is all in silence. It arcs around and just goes wham, and navigational deflector goes into a million pieces. And the ship it sort of lurches slightly.
Timing.
I organised that, obviously. It lurches slightly at the impact, and you're away and clear. Now, as you get perspective on the scene, so bearing in mind you've now come out of the ship, so the Valenti is a few kilometres off to the starboard from where you are.
Yeah.
And you, from outside, you can see that the ship doesn't appear to be heavily damaged, but as you thought, you can see that it's trailing plasma from the engines. So obviously what they've done was they targeted the engine to disable it. However, it is still intact and it is not venting atmosphere. So in other words, they appear to have not, if there's anybody on it, then there's a good chance that they're still okay because the ship is still intact, but it just doesn't have the engine capability.
Can I send out a hail to see if there's anyone on route?
Yeah, just send that.
So you can send out a message. Now you don't get an immediate response, but you can send out a message, and again, there's no jamming or anything. So you just broadcast. You tie into a Starfleet channel, send out a broadband. This is Lieutenant Commander Naismith. You can just give your position as best as you understand it. Again, you've got navigational. You know, the shuttle's obviously got navigational computer, so you can easily tell them your location.
What's the nearest location we can head for?
Well, I mean, probably because again,
Starbase, I think, probably.
You were sort of on the way to Narendra Station, so you're probably somewhere around about in the middle
halfway,
here, which is still a fair. I mean, it's still a big distance, but the point is you're in open space now. So you're sitting in your shuttle and you're seeing this. So the Valenti is sort of drifting, but it's intact.
No, I'm taking
the Orion ship begins to and starts to. You can see this weapons banks are charging.
I'm taking
and it's starting to fire
at us.
It's firing at you. Yeah.
I'm going to warp.
However, it's firing at you in a way that's not. It's still not trying to hit you because, of course,
precious cargo.
You've got the councilman on board.
I'm just going to warp and get the hell out of it.
As you begin to manoeuvre away, then another ship appears, warps in, and as it comes in, you can see that it's the USS Vigilant. It's a Defiant class ship with that distinct flattened profile. Comes in and it essentially comes in at the Orion and it strafes with a precise. You can see the pulse phasers kind of, and you can see the weapon emplacements on the Orion ship.
Yeah.
Kind of. These are the like phaser banks here, and it kind of takes out the phaser banks, and you get a hail comes through. So this is the Vigilant. You are, and it's broadcasting to the Orion ship. You know, you're ordered to stand down by order of Starfleet, prepare to be boarded, and the Orion has got no chance of doing anything at this point. And
I see the humans have come late to the party.
So as the Vigilant, after a few minutes, so you're hailed, and obviously they make sure that the Orion ship is under control, and then they bring you what?
Where the hell are we going to dock? It's just occurred to me. Where the hell are we going to dock?
Good point. Okay, I was going to that. You've never seen. None of you have probably ever seen a Defiant class. I mean, you know what it looks like because of your. Obviously you're in Starfleet, so of course you know that you were being assigned to it.
Yeah.
But you probably haven't seen one in the flesh before because there's only 2 of them in service. So the Vigilant is basically the second Defiant class that's in service after the Defiant itself. And as you rightly say, these ships have a shuttle bay on the underside. However, as you kind of pull under the ship, you can see you can see there's an odd boxy shape underneath the ship, and it looks like it's got essentially there's a runabout. What looks like the bottom edge of a runabout tucked in underneath.
So I'll hail.
That's got a second landing, baby.
It has, but they're just for the they're like shuttle pods.
Lieutenant Osterhagen to the Vigilant. 4 to beam aboard.
Go ahead, Lieutenant. This is Commander Hranok.
4 to beam aboard and a stasis pod.
Stand by. We'll bring you aboard. And within a few minutes, they beam you on board. So you appear in the Vigilance transporter room, which is a fairly relatively. In fact, what they do is they take you over in 2 groups. What they do is they beam the stasis pod and the medical guy and Calbant over first, and then after a minute they say stand by, and then after a minute or 2 they transport you on board. And so you appear in the it's not really a transporter room, it's more of a transporter alcove, which is sort of up here.
Yeah.
And you're greeted by a couple of Starfleet officers in
permission to come aboard.
Permission granted. The captain will see you shortly. Please report to sick bay on deck 2. The medical officer will check you out.
He's got a contagious disease.
And they're wearing the DS9 uniforms, obviously, which are the black uniforms with the coloured tops. And so you're brought on board the Vigilant, and we will leave it there for now. Excellent. So, any questions, first of all?
No.
Enjoyed
so
that.
we'll stop before they meet Pluto Plume, Chief Medical Officer.
Right, so how far off track did he go?
Do you know what? Actually, no, it was good because... no, it went very well.
Yes, no.
I can't really dispute that. I mean, yes, I wasn't expecting that, obviously, but...
So, Kevin, I had an almost identical idea. I was going to try and hail them, and if they didn't respond, I'd just put out a message.
Plague.
And I was going to say that you've beamed aboard members of our crew that have a plague. And what I was going to say is that we have
the cure
to fight the first stages, which need to be done. I was going to load up a load of hypo sprays just with sedatives, and then just go around knocking them all out with sedatives.
Oh, that's a great idea. I mean,
same page.
No, totally fair play to you. I think that's again, the best thing about these games is that's not something I would have considered. I kind of expected it would probably degenerate into a bit of a firefight, but actually, I think your solution was much more elegant, and
Nerve pinching.
I love the fact that nerve pinching, sowing seeds of confusion. It's great as well with Miles having that local knowledge and being able to get around. That helped out. So no, I think that went very well.
You the momentum and that first chunk of momentum to get him to believe, and then you generate and use it to threat to actually get them to believe you.
So that's one of the strengths I think of this system with the narrative side of it is that you can sort of bend reality to your will a little bit, and so by having that great success with the, as you say, convincing him, then from there everything was.
And who knew keeping that blood DNA samples would actually pay off?
But everything was
scripted.
Everything was believable for him, and it went from there. And as I say,
pretty sure I didn't really properly lie as a Vulcan.
No, but again, you exaggerated.
Bent the truth.
But we also know that David is not your standard Vulcan, so he hasn't been raised with Vulcans.
Yeah.
So although he's physiologically Vulcan, and obviously has learnt Vulcan techniques, but he hasn't spent his life among Vulcans. So much like Michael Burnham and the whole being raised with Vulcans but being human thing, you're not always getting it right. But actually that probably played to your advantage in this situation because you were able to kind of manipulate the facts a little bit to suit you. So I have no problem with that, and it went very well. And so essentially, you did exactly the aim of the thing was to keep the councilman from being whisked away, because there were some variations I'd run through where obviously if you could have escaped, but obviously if the councilman was left on the ship, then essentially although you haven't been captured, you haven't really won because they've got what they wanted. So the fact that you remembered to prioritise getting him off. I love the idea of using the remote shuttle to basically take out the navigational deflector, which essentially muted them. And again, all of that stuff was great. So I'm really happy with that. So what I'll do is I'll have a look at because the way that
so let's just end there.
Experience works in this system is slightly odd. So I'm going to read up on it because you don't get. It's not like again with Savage Worlds where you get you don't get XPs like D&D. It's not like Savage Worlds where you get experience points to level up. It's to do with events and things happening. So I'll have a read through and I'll kind of communicate with you in the meantime about where we go with any of that. And as I say, obviously you were playing Miles, so we'll figure something out. But I think you'd be very happy with that. I think you played. I think I think everyone played very well. So everyone made advantage. So any other comments? Are we happy? How did it go? How did you find that?
It was great.
You okay? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
So great. Well, so next time.
Always with a new system, you don't know all the sort of tricks and.
I mean, it's going to take a while. I'm still. I mean, every time I finish these, I go back and read through the rules again because again, So this time, I'm happy that I spent some threat.
Yep.
Because as I said earlier, one of my big problems with the thing is that
keeping track of the threat.
Well, it's remembering to use it, and it's much like even with Savage Worlds again. And I keep going back to Savage Worlds, but it's the system I know the best. Where as a GM, you can spend bennies because you get bennies to spend, and again, I'm always terrible at doing that because I kind of almost feel like it's cheating that I'm kind of giving them an advantage, but actually. The fact that you've given me that threat because you've manipulated things to your advantage, then that means I can. Fate goes back the other way, and it's like, I'm going to have a little bit of.
I create the threat for you, and then you use them on the press guys.
Yeah.
It would work, but you still use them. It kind of.
So that's great. That's one thing we've done better this time that we didn't do before. That I'm happier that I picked that up, and again, I think we're getting to learn how to spend momentum. And so again, create advantage spend is a good example where you can, again, when Miles made that great shot. You can then use that to your advantage, and you can then, say, well, I want to do exactly this. I want to, get them to do. I'm going to take out that panel.
And then earlier, when we create the advantage, you're remembering to keep the.
Yeah. And also good things as well that you didn't go for lethal combat. So again, Miles didn't. He given his background, he could quite legitimately have, because last time he kind of took out one of the guys because I think that was his anger at Orion's, and I'm
hoping that wasn't too out of character that he didn't shoot lethal combat. I was thinking about. Because he is a security officer, so he's looking to protect the rest of his crew.
I think we got to the point that we were so close to leaving, it seemed unnecessary. Unnecessary to go killing people.
But also, I think what's good is you're right. I think what's happened. In fact, I might even argue with him that could be a value thing because maybe he's learned a little something. So last time he shot because he saw an Orion and the situation you were in, you didn't know what was going on.
Instinct took over.
Yeah, he made a lethal shot because that was his instinct. Took the shot. I didn't have a problem with that, but in this situation, it's good that he then thought about it and went, do you know what, I don't need to do that. And again, as you say, the Starfleet training kicks in, and he goes, do you know what, I don't need to kill these guys. I can just as effectively put them out of the picture by doing something else. And so I'm always happy when people, in this again with the Star Trek setting, that you don't always have to resort to, so again, you could have flown the shuttlecraft into the warp reactor and blown the thing up.
Yeah.
What's the point? You don't need to kill all those people. You took it out of action.
You disabled the ship.
I was umming and ahhing as to whether to grab the guy that I dropped first of all to pick his disruptor up and then start shooting, but I thought I'd just take one more. We'll go one more step.
But again, you see, the great thing is, and again, what I really liked about that was that he had the advantage in that he kind of got them into a position where they would pretty much buy whatever you were selling because you'd made it.
I didn't want to overcook things.
No. And as I say, the thing, and that's why I was quite happy when you didn't convince him about the other thing, because he was almost getting to a point where it's like, you know what, this is getting too much. But you kind of had them convinced enough that you were able to kind of sow confusion and doubt.
Yeah.
Talked yourself out of the cell, which was unexpected. Great.
Bullied his way out.
Yeah, but I kind of expected that it was going to end. They were going to have to come and break you out. But again, the fact that you kind of said, "No, you need to get me out of it," and they kind of went, "Oh, okay." They sort of bought it, and he said, "Well, I'm going to keep a guard on you," but you then use that to your advantage by dropping the guard when the other guy
smashed it tricorder so they couldn't find it.
Again, so I'm very, very happy, and again, everything I think went really well. So I'm really chuffed, and I think we've.
So something I regret is that we know why the Orions were there. The Klingons, we have no idea why they were there.
Isn't it?
And it's Narendra base, isn't it? That's shared by both Starfleet and Klingons.
Couldn't they just be what's it so, aren't they? Mercenary Klingons.
They could well be.
So
freelance Klingons.
I actually added Edorm in there. That's not on the proper map, but that was one that I made up. So you can tell bad Photoshop in there, but whatever. It was done in a hurry. But so Edorm is because the Narendra station, as you say, is one of the things that's interesting or that's difficult at the moment, and I'm trying to talk to Modiphius about getting an answer out of this, is that we don't know anything really about Narendra station. We know what it looks like because it's in the rule book. There's a picture of it.
Yeah.
But we don't really. They haven't given us any details at all about who's in command of it. We know that the Klingons and the Federation sort of share it. That's been established.
They do a little 50-page booklet on maps.
I guess it will be coming. Because I don't know if you probably wouldn't have picked up on this, but there's a group in Coventry that we're kind of sharing. We're not sharing. We're kind of, I suppose, a little bit of shared universing.
At the moment, it's just we're both posting information up, but nobody's actually gone. Oh, actually, that's not.
So there's a guy called There's a guy called Jason who's got a group that he's running in Coventry, and they're on a Nova class ship, and they're using the 20 this setting and the official Modiphius setting.
Yep.
And so we kind of they've got access to our Facebook group, and so they can listen to it. They can see what we're doing, and I've sent them links to the website. And so the idea is that as things move on, we can maybe do a little bit of shared universe. So I reached out to Jason last week and said, look, what have you thought about with the station? Because again, if we set anything on the station, we don't know anything about it, but I think if we're going to use it, we might as well try and come up with a common understanding of what we think's there. And obviously Modiphius will probably overrule it, but Narendra's quite an important part of the setting, so that's something we'll learn. And as you say, Klingons, that whole dynamic with the Klingons is something interesting that we'll pick up on, I'm sure. But anyhow, so I've got The next session will be in 3 weeks. I'll send the date out.
22, I think it's looking at the calendar.
Yeah, probably. And what we'll do is the next adventure should probably last for 2 sessions. I think that takes up to Christmas, and then I think, Mike, are you still planning to do something afterwards?
Possibly.
He's working on it. But anyway,
I must admit, after our conversation this morning, I came up with another idea. But that's the better idea, and I actually like that idea better because it's less work for me to do and use publishers' materials.
Okay, well,
I came up with an idea for a one-shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm so far away from learning the rules that it's way down the line if it happens.
But again,
so,
I'm more
I'd be
than
interested.
Again, I'm very, very, very happy to. I mean, I'm not a martinet about it. I mean,
Right, have you got a picture of your character?
I'll send you them all the character sheets if you like.
Well, I want to say visually. I want to see what they look like because
I didn't actually.
Where's the miniature?
Where's
the miniature, Mike? Hang on.
That's what the species looks like.
Yes, yeah.
That's actually the picture that it's only a very.
Have you got a larger version of it?
Yeah, I can send you that.
Yeah, if you could, that'd be great.
No problem. Yeah.
And do you know what David looks like?
No.
Get onto the miniature maker and get him done.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Starship Vigilant. Miles Naismith was played by Sean. Kaz was played by Mike. David Osterhagen was played by Kevin. Dr. Plume and Kalish were played by Kerrin. Our music is Fanfare for Space by Kevin MacLeod, which is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution license. See you next time.